You said there might be some.
Well, before I start that, Judge, what is the last exhibit number you have for the state? I just want to make sure that.
Let me pull it up. I had States Exhibit 8, the baptism.
Oh, I mean, the highest number.
Oh, the high, oh.
Oh, okay, so you weren't keeping in order.
I just put them down. I have 120.
Do you want this part of the record?
Yeah, this could be part of the record. We'll just keep it on. I have 120 as the highest.
Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, does that match what you all have?
No, but I have 126, but I'm assuming that it's probably pretty close to right then if I have
Okay.
127 is next. Jeff, do you want to go ahead and do the stipulations?
Yes, Judge. Oops, sorry. Sorry, Chrissy.
Thank you.
We've only been doing this for 3 weeks. We stipulated to several BCI reports with the exception of 2 DNA witnesses and their reports. Based on conversations that we had with the state and then shared with the court in chambers, we expect Detective Hitchings to testify about those results generally to save time and not to have to bring the scientists in. So we would request to include those 2 additional DNA BCI reports into our list of stipulations.
Okay.
So as far as the stipulation goes, I guess the biggest purpose of the stipulation, Judge, is that we're free to talk about them with Detective Hitchings without having been encumbered by whether the report was brought in or not. As far as the actual reports that are going to go in, we'll probably get together and decide that when we do the evidence, because like there's serology, which then is incorporated in the DNA. So we might not want to put all those in there, but it's for purposes of talking with the detective, we're agreeing to use any one of them or any part of them.
Agreed by the defense.
We agree with that. And we'd further ask that the stipulated reports go back with the jury.
Fine with the state?
Well, I guess it depends which ones they are. Because I don't want to confuse the jury because there are some that are corrected for typos and stuff like that. So I don't want to send all of them back because it'll be quite confusing. So if we could just sit and agree to make sure we get everything in there, but maybe we can streamline a little bit, that would be best.
I agree. There are some that are corrected or duplicative. And so when we're going through the exhibits, we'll spend a couple minutes to go through which reports we want to go back.
Okay, good.
That's fine.
I also want to address the physical exhibits and whether that's like what we're going to send back and what we'll hold on to in case the jury requests it. Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay, I think we're ready to bring in the jury, Adam. Thank you so much. Yes. Oh, yeah, go ahead. You can get it ready. Did the extra half hour help? Yeah, it's not the worst, right? Thank you, Adam. Okay, go ahead and take a seat, everyone. Good morning to our jury. Just a quick reminder before we start up, if everyone can make sure their phone's on silent or turned off at this time, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you. And Attorney LaPrenza, you ready to call your witness?
Yes, Judge, thank you very much. We would call Detective Hitchings.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Go ahead and take a seat.
Good morning, Detective Hitchings. Obviously, I think everybody here knows who you are, but for the record, why don't you go ahead and state your full name and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Michael Hitchings, Hitchings.
And how are you employed?
I work for the City of New Franklin Police Department.
How long have you been with New Franklin?
A little over about 25 years.
Okay. And in order to be a police officer for the City of New Franklin, what training and background do you have?
We have to go through the OPATA, Ohio Police Officer Training Academy, and then continuing education through your career.
All right, and so we heard testimony previously about OPATA and the police academy. So you went through the academy, became OPATA certified,
Yes,
and have you maintained that certification in good standing ever since that time?
I have.
Why don't you just give us a little bit of background about when you started with the New Franklin Police Department, what division would you have been in?
I started as a patrol officer back in '95 part-time and was moved, got full-time in '99 and have been full-time since then.
All right, how long were you in patrol?
About 9 years. Well, with the part-time, maybe 13 years.
All right, and as far as patrol goes, what types of duties would you have as a patrol officer?
Assisting citizens with any complaints they have, taking reports, enforcing the Ohio Revised Code.
All right, and you would be a first responder for crimes that were committed in the city of New Franklin, or the village of New Franklin?
Yes.
Okay, it's a village, correct?
And it's city now.
City now. At what point in time did those duties change?
I've been in the detective bureau now for about 16 years, I believe.
Okay, so that puts us where? Do the math for me.
Total.
You said for about 16 years you've been in the detective bureau. When would that have been? What year?
Oh.
Around 2008, maybe?
We'll go with that,
To
Judge.
speed things
I
along.
do have a calculator
Yeah.
in all fairness.
Give me a calculator, please.
Clearly, we're all math averse.
Yes.
Okay, so about 2008 or so. And when you became a detective, what were your duties at that point in time?
I would just investigate whatever crimes would come in, from phone harassments to burglaries, break-in enterings, whatever, anything that would come through the door.
And just for those people that may not be familiar with New Franklin, what type of, I guess, area is it?
It's a rural area, bedroom community.
And does that include part of the Portage Lakes area?
Yes, it does.
Okay, but there's a lot of farming community also?
There's a lot of open farm area and fields out there.
And we've been talking about an address on Rex Lake Road. What's the address where this, I guess, part of this incident took place?
647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road.
And would that be in the city of New Franklin, Summit County, Ohio?
Yes, it is.
All right. We also talked about Rex Lake Road, I think was the other one. You just said West Turkey Foot Lake, correct?
Correct.
In Rex Lake Road, is that also in the city of New Franklin, town of Summit County, Ohio?
731 Rex Lake Road is in New Franklin.
All right. As far as your training and background as a detective, what kind of training have you had?
They've sent you to different investigative schools, schools for interviewing techniques, collecting evidence if you need to, things of that nature.
And as far as New Franklin's concerned, is there a high homicide rate in New Franklin?
No.
All right. In your 16 years, approximately how many homicides have you had to investigate?
I'd say somewhere around 7 or 8 right now.
Okay. So in 2012, this would have probably been earlier on in your detective career.
Yes.
All right. Why don't we talk a little bit about why we're here today, state of Ohio versus initially Chad Cobb and now Erica Stefanko. How did you, as a detective, become involved in this case?
I received a phone call sometime around 1 in the morning, maybe 2 in the morning, on the 21st of June, 2012, to come in and reference a missing person that was delivering a pizza to a business.
All right. And at that point in time, you're not investigating a homicide, you're investigating a missing person, correct?
Correct.
All right. So what do you do at that point? You get the call, you get up out of bed. What do you do?
I responded to the address there on West Turkey Foot Lake Road, 647. Made contact with the officers that were there. There were some deputies there at the time. Took a look around the building, the location where this delivery was supposed to take place.
Okay. And obviously, when you get there, you then basically are briefed by all the detectives, or excuse me, all the officers and law enforcement that have already been there for an hour or two, correct?
That's correct.
And so we heard testimony from Matt Travis and I think Officer Hargett. So were you able to gather that information that they testified about over the last few days?
Yes.
All right. So at that point in time, what was it that you knew?
Upon my arrival, I was able to see with some flashlights, obviously it was a dark area, that there was some blood on the ground. There's debris on the ground, some change, looked like a broken pen or earring, miscellaneous things. That there seemed to be a struggle and quite a bit of blood.
All right. And of course, that doesn't mean somebody has been killed at that point, but definitely somebody's hurt and missing.
Yeah, somebody was obviously injured at that location.
All right. You were informed that a pizza had been ordered, and were you given information regarding whether that was male or female?
The caller who made the call for the pizza, I was told, was a female caller.
All right. So at this point, the only thing you know is that the delivery piece of person is missing. They never came back from the delivery, and then there was a female caller.
Correct.
Was Brittany Dunson around at the time when you got there?
Brittany Dunson was at the Domino's Pizza.
All right. And did you end up getting information from her or from somebody who got information from her?
I did.
And so what information did you get at that point?
After speaking with Brittany and then some people there at the pizza place from officers, we learned that there was a custody battle between Chad Cobb and Ashley Biggs over the child.
And we always hear that, you know, when there's a homicide, the spouse is always the first suspect. Is that fair?
That's the first place you're going to look usually.
All right. And in this case, she was not married, but she had a child in common with an individual, correct?
That's correct.
And that custody battle is over that child.
Yes.
Who was the individual that was in the custody battle with our missing person?
That would have been Grace Cobb.
And who would the parent be?
Would have been Ashley Biggs and Chad Cobb.
All right, so Ashley was our delivery driver, and you found out that Chad was in a custody battle with our missing person.
That's correct.
And then, as a detective, is that concerning to you?
Yes.
All right. So what efforts did you take at that point to try and locate either Ashley or Chad Cobb?
I believe we had the Wayne County Sheriff's Office drive by their home on Mount Eaton Road and see if anybody was there. And they were unable to make contact with anybody.
All right. So nobody was at Mount Eaton Road?
Correct.
And that would have been sometime in the middle of the night after probably 2 a.m.?
After 2 a.m.
When you have a missing person, what type of efforts do you normally go through to try and locate that person?
Well, we can use whatever, if there's some technology, say they use a cell phone or something, we can then go ahead and get a hold of either Verizon, AT&T, whoever his phone is, and then we can try to ask them if they can ping the location so that we know of a basic area where that phone might be.
Now, normally, as a law enforcement officer, if you want just to be curious as to where somebody is, you can't have the phone company ping somebody, can you?
No, you cannot.
All right. So the circumstances in which you're allowed to ping for somebody would be what?
You have to have some exigent circumstances, either life-threatening, missing person, could be an Amber Alert, like looking for somebody like that.
All right. And so in this circumstance, you had a missing person and blood at a scene where that person was last known to go.
That's correct.
Would that be considered in your field to be exigent circumstances?
Yes.
At the scene, was there a phone found?
Yeah, there was a flip phone, a gray flip phone that was on the ground.
Right. Now, at that point in time, do you know whose flip phone that was?
At that time, I did not.
All right. So if it's the victim's and you have it ping, it's not going, will it help you?
No, if it's the victims, it's not going to help me out at that point.
So do you try and have, first of all, do you know her number? Do you get the number from Brittany or somebody?
Ashley's phone?
Yes.
Yeah, we ended up getting her phone number.
All right. And so was that her, did it end up being her phone?
Yeah, it was her phone.
Okay. So now that is kind of not going to be useful in locating Ashley, is it?
Correct.
But there was another phone number that was of potential value, true?
True.
What phone was that?
Phone
number.
It would have been the phone that was used to call and order the pizza.
All right. And did you get that phone number from someone?
Yes, we did.
And that would have been from?
We forgot that from Domino's Pizza.
Okay. And then so I guess being a detective, if you were to ping that phone, what were you hoping to find?
We were hoping to find out maybe where that phone was at the time we were looking for it, or where it has been.
All right. And at that point, that's the last person we assume saw Ashley alive.
That's what we would assume, yes.
Okay. So when you pinged that phone, were you able to locate it?
We were not able to locate the phone. We were able to locate where the phone call came from.
All right. And so where in proximate and where in relation to the crime scene was that phone, I guess, pinging?
Less than a quarter mile from the location on 647 West Turkeyfoot Lake Road.
All right. And just so that we have some idea, the pinging how accurate is it?
Just put you into a vicinity,
All right.
small vicinity right there.
So it'll give you some longitude and latitude information.
Correct.
And if you were to ping a phone and you hold the phone and then get the longitude, latitude, if you go to that location, am I going to 100% be there?
No.
All right. But it'd be in that general vicinity.
You'd be in the area, yes.
All right. And so when that phone was pinged for when they, well, and I should say, or ask you this, ultimately, down the road in the investigation, did you actually get the phone records?
Yes, we did get the phone records.
And within those phone records, did they have information regarding longitude and latitude regarding where the phone call, placing the order for the pizza would have been?
Yes.
All right. And was that in the vicinity of the West Turkeyfoot Lake Road?
Yes, it was in the vicinity of West Turkeyfoot.
All right. Ultimately, the phone company were they doing an active pinging of this phone during that period of time to try and locate it?
We had them checking for the phone so that we could see where it was at, and then eventually we were just told that the phone had to be off because they could not be located.
All right. So somehow after the pizza was ordered, at some point, sometime after that, it was turned off.
Turned off, destroyed, something.
Okay. You never did find that phone, did you?
We never did find the phone.
And that phone was not pinging near the Chad Cobb's home, was it?
The pizza, the phone used to use to order the pizza?
Correct.
At one point, the latitude and longitude for one of the connections from that Verizon phone was in his backyard.
And what time of the day would that have been?
I believe it was in the evening.
In relation to the crime?
The day, if it would have been that day, I believe, I'd have to look at the records, but I believe it's the day of the...
But in relation to the time of the crime? Was it at the time of the crime pinging in his backyard?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. So at the time of the crime, it was pinging near the crime scene?
Correct.
Okay. Let me, you described the crime scene to some degree when you arrived there, and you said that it appeared to have been a struggle. I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit number 17. If you would take a look at this, tell us if you recognize that. I
Yes.
think it actually maybe goes this way. What is that?
That's a photo of the asphalt at the parking lot at 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road.
And you heard prior testimony, I think, from Officer Haggard about the change that was on the ground. And do you see the change here in this picture?
Yes.
And is there also some other object in that picture?
Looks like a broken pen on the bottom of the photo.
All right. So in your mind, at that point, that appeared to be some sort of a struggle or signs of a struggle.
Signs of something
All right.
struggle, yeah.
And I'll show you State's Exhibit number 16. What is that?
That appears to be an earring.
Okay. And again, what is that, as a detective, what does that indicate to you?
Somebody's earring was left there on the ground somehow.
All right. And State's Exhibit number, let's see what we got here, 19. What is this?
That is the blast door from the electronic controlled weapon.
All right, now the other pictures we saw was on asphalt. This appears to be some kind of a carpet fiber. Where was this located?
This is at the side door entrance of the business at 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road, like a doormat.
All right, so they had like a mat outside the door.
That's correct.
All right. And then State's Exhibit number 20.
And that would be the other blast door from the electronic weapon.
All right. And then you had talked about the fact that there was some blood visible. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 10. And do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
There's quite a fair amount of blood that was in the parking lot that evening,
All right. And
early
then,
morning.
obviously, when you went to the scene, it was dark out. The next day well, I guess the same technical day, but when the sun came up and it got light, was there additional picture taken of that area?
Yeah, Summit County Sheriff's Office had their evidence technician out there, and we allowed him to take care of the photos and stuff for us.
All right, State's Exhibit number 18 for identification purposes. Did you see this?
Yes, I have.
All right, and what are we looking at?
It's quite a bit of blood on the ground in the rear parking lot there at the crime scene.
All right, so that's a daytime photo, so you can see the blood a little bit clearer.
Yes, that is daytime.
All right. Now, in regards to your investigation, hold on one second. In regards to your investigation, now you're at the scene, you're pinging the phones. We don't have any pings from the phone that called. You don't have, and Ashley's phone is still there, so that's not going to be of any value to you. What do you do at this point as far as trying to locate either Ashley or Chad?
At that point, we put out a BOLO, which is be on the lookout to area agencies around us and counties around us. We asked for the State Highway Patrol to help us put a plane up in the air, check different areas for Ashley's vehicle and see if we could locate her.
All right. And so we heard about the BOLOs earlier in our testimony from other officers. And so was that fruitful, that BOLO?
At first, no.
All right. And so when's the first, I guess, movement in the case? What was the first thing that happened?
We learned later that the vehicle was found. Is that what we're going for?
Which vehicle?
The Lincoln Navigator that belonged to Chad Cobb was found at his grandparents' house at 731 Rex Lake Road.
Okay. And so were you, you were notified of that, and I think Officer Haggart told us that he was the one who located it. Were you notified then, and did you go to the scene?
Yes, I did respond to the home.
All right. And as you went to the scene, is that something you normally see, a family of 6 sitting behind the barn in the middle of the night?
Objection.
Basis?
Calls for speculation.
Response?
I'm asking him, is that something he normally sees? I'm not asking him to speculate on.
Yeah, I'm going to allow that. Go ahead. Overruled.
At 2:30, 3:34 in the morning, whatever it was, that's a little odd to have an entire family sitting behind a detached garage.
Okay. And you were made aware that Chad was not in the car at the time, right?
I was made aware of that.
As far as what happens at that point, you've got Chad. Did you receive any information at the time as to what was going on there or why they were there?
Can you rephrase that a little bit, actually?
Well, you went to the scene. There were a number of people there, correct? There was Chad, there was Erica, the kids.
Yes,
I assume the grandparents were inside.
they were in the house.
All right. And the grandparents would actually be the kids' great-grandparents.
That would be correct.
At that point in time, did you receive any information or explanation by anyone as to why that vehicle was in the back of that barn?
No, nobody wanted to talk to us about it.
All right. At this point, what happens next?
At that point, Chad Cobb was taken back to our police department. I believe Miss Lyons was still at the residence with the grandparents because she had a young child and they were taking care of some stuff with the kid. And then she later came back to the police department.
All right. And when you say taking care of some of the stuff with the kid, what do you mean?
Taking care of the necessities of a child, feeding the child,
All right.
obviously changing the child.
Okay. And then she later went to the police station also?
Yes, she was later brought back to the police department.
Excuse me. Now, at this point, you're at the police station, you're doing whatever you do at the station, and at some point that day, do you then get additional information about the Bolo?
Yes, we were notified by Wayne County Sheriff's Office that they had located Ashley's vehicle in a cornfield.
All right. And do you then go to that location?
I did respond to that location.
All right. And of course, we've heard testimony, we've seen pictures, and of all the information you've seen in this trial, the pictures, is that how did they accurately reflect how you saw Ashley and her vehicle in that field that day?
Yes, they did.
Now, that was in Wayne County, correct?
Wayne County on Poor Road.
All right. At any time during the pinging of the phone that made the phone call to order the pizza, at any time, did you have a location of that phone pinging near Poor Road?
No.
And you heard testimony, and you might even have personal knowledge of where Cindy and Jay Cobb live.
I learned of where they lived after found the car there and did some investigation.
And would they have lived in the general vicinity of Poor Road?
On the back side of the woods from where the car was found, a distance away, but yeah, close enough.
The general area?
General
vicinity?
area, yeah.
Okay. And at no time did that phone ping in that area?
No, the phone was not shown in that area.
In regards to your investigation, once you found Chad Cobb, you found him essentially hiding in the woods by his car behind the barn, and you understood there was a custody battle. Who was your primary suspect in the case?
Chad Cobb was the primary suspect in this.
And ultimately, did you get some search warrants for this case?
We did. We had search warrants for different properties, people's bodies, things of that nature.
And was one of them on Mount Eaton Road?
Yes, we did have one for Mount Eaton Road.
And what was the location of that search warrant?
The address?
Yeah.
15007 Mount Eaton Road.
And whose address was that?
That would have been where Erica and Chad lived with their children.
All right. And that area was searched?
It was searched.
And was it the same day of June 21st, 2012?
Yes, and late into the evening.
And at that point in time, was there evidence collected that also, or that would have confirmed your belief that Chad Cobb was involved in the murder of Ashley Biggs?
Yes, at that point, I was pretty sure.
And the clothes that you found and the backpack you found at that location appeared to appeared to be a men's clothing.
Yes, it did.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 127. Oh, what happened here?
No, it'll come up in a second. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Let's, I guess.
You can zoom it out. There you go.
Yeah. All right. You see State's 127? What is that?
That would be the outfit, camouflage pants, shirt, hat, ski mask that we located.
All right, and did you lay this all out on the table and take this photograph?
I did.
All right, and does this accurately reflect the materials that were found in the back of Chad and Erica's home that day of June 21st, 2012?
They were found out back by a makeshift table.
All right. And ultimately, did you have these items tested by the lab, BCI?
Yeah, we sent some of the items out to the lab to get tested.
All right. You heard testimony yesterday from Martin Lewis about the duct tape.
That's correct.
And so was that significant finding for you, that the information that Martin Lewis had provided?
Yeah, I mean, it showed us that the duct tape that was on the jacket, the one that was found in the back paddock at a different location, that it was all tied together.
All right. And was there, in fact, DNA testing done on some of the clothing found at Chad's home?
Yes, there was.
And I believe, was it the sock or the boot? There was some blood found on it?
I believe there was blood, well, I know there was blood on the sock that came back, and it would have been Ashley Biggs' blood.
All right. So the DNA determined that the blood found on Chad Cobb's sock that was found in his backyard with his boots and clothing belonged to Ashley Biggs.
That's correct.
All right. Now, as far as the I guess, testing goes, is there some practical limitations to how much you can test for DNA?
Yeah, BCI has policies that you can only send so much stuff at a time. When you pick and choose what best items you can send, you think you're going to be probative for you, and then you send them out and get them tested.
So you sent up the socks, which appeared to have blood on them, and they came back to Ashley Biggs. If we look at State's Exhibit number 127, can you see the kind of the staining on the clothing here?
Do you want him to annotate it?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to turn on the annotation?
No, that's you see what I'm referring to, correct?
Yeah, there's some around both of the knees, right here on the thigh area. There's some dark staining. Obviously, there's some mud down here on the bottom.
All right, and some of that appears to be could be blood, correct?
It appears it could be.
All right, but as far as having all that tested, was there any need at that point to have it tested once you have some results with Ashley's blood on it?
No, at that point, I did not.
Okay. Some of the other testing that was done was there was also attempts to get fingerprints off the duct tape. Is that, we heard Martin Lewis talk about that yesterday?
Yes, he did testify to that yesterday.
And now he didn't do that testing, but you are aware of the results of that testing?
Yes.
And there was no, I guess, any prints of any evidentiary value found. Is that fair?
That's correct.
So that would be the result of that?
Yes,
inquiry.
nothing was found on those that would help us lead anybody else.
No fingerprints by Chad, no fingerprints by Erica.
Correct.
And also, we, as far as any DNA that was located of evidentiary value, there was no DNA of Erica Stefanko found on Ashley Biggs' body. Is that fair? Or a car or anything of that nature?
Her DNA wasn't found on anything.
Okay. And likewise, Ashley Biggs' DNA or blood was not found on anything that we can associate with Erica Stefanko.
That's correct.
Okay. The only blood evidence connection is between Chad and Ashley.
That's correct.
Okay. During this entire investigation, as the lead detective, did you ever vary from the belief that Chad Cobb was the individual that actually killed Ashley.
No, I believe that, and I still do to this date.
You heard him testify otherwise a few days ago, is that fair?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the phone. So you have a number that calls Domino's Pizza and orders this pizza for her to deliver. As a result of that, she is abducted, killed, whatever happens, right?
Correct.
So as a detective, was that phone or the number associated with it something that you can use to try and find evidence?
Yes.
All right, so what did you do in regards to, so you said you never found the phone, but you had the number. What can you do with that number?
We can check that number just to see if any phone calls coming in and out of it. Try to find out where the phone was purchased, any of those kind of things.
All right, and so were you able to do any of that?
The phone itself was, it was a prepaid phone. It's called a phone in a box, I believe. I can't remember where, but you could purchase it at multiple different locations.
All right, and when you say a box phone, so most people that have a phone, they go to Verizon, AT&T, things of that nature. How is that different from a box phone?
So basically a burner phone, we call it. Phone that you could just go into a Walmart, wherever, I think CVS even still, I mean, you can buy one and then you get prepaid minutes for it, you add them on it, and then you can use that as your phone, and there's no information on the phone.
That associates to an individual who's using it?
Well, the phone itself would be, there's no subscriber information, so it would be like, basically, you don't know whose phone it is.
And when you say subscriber information, so if I go into Verizon and purchase a phone, what kind of information would you as a law enforcement officer be able to get from that?
If you go to a Verizon store and I put a subpoena out, I should be able to get all your records from your address, your name, everything associated with it.
And you can't do that with these burner phones?
That's correct, you cannot.
So is there a service, like I pay monthly, right? So I go to Verizon, I get my phone, I'm paying monthly, I get a bill and I get unlimited minutes. How do these phones work as far as being able to use them and have them service?
You would purchase air cards, and then you could upload those air cards onto the phone. Your burner phone could be a Verizon phone, an AT&T phone, and so on.
All right. And so the minutes, how do you purchase the minutes?
You could purchase the minutes just like, I guess it'd be like going to the store and getting a gift card. And then there on the back, there's a number that you can scratch off, and you have to upload that basically by calling the number and adding those minutes to your phone.
And what, I guess, increments do those come in?
Multiple different, 10 minute, 15, 20, whatever you want to buy.
Up to hundreds of minutes?
True.
Okay. So you found out that this phone was not one that had subscriber information,
That's correct.
but you were unable to locate where that phone would have been purchased.
That's correct.
Was there some way to determine where the phone numbers, I guess, minutes came from?
Well, during the search warrant, I was able to locate, or I didn't, somebody located doing the search at the house at 1507 Mount Eaton. There was a receipt in the trash. The receipt was for the purchase of two 15-minute air cards from a Walmart.
And so these two 15-minute cards were purchased from Walmart, so what did you do with that information?
We took the information from that and asked Walmart to see if they could pull video surveillance so that we could see maybe who purchased those cards.
All right. And what was the date on the receipt?
I believe it was June 18th.
All right, so that would have been 2 days prior to the phone call being made to order the pizza.
That's correct.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 95.
Oh, here you go. Come up in just a second.
What are we looking at here?
This would be a picture of Chad Cobb, Erica Lyon, and their children.
All right. And does it have the date actually imprinted on the still?
June 18th, 2012 at 7:35 p.m.
All right. So this was just over 48 hours prior to that phone call ordering the pizza being made?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to verify from the video, this is a still from a video?
That's a still from a video.
All right. And were you able to determine from Walmart security that even though they're walking out of this store at this point in time, that receipt was associated with them?
Yeah, we watched the video transaction, them paying for it at the counter.
So they paid for what?
2 15-minute air cards.
And was one of those 15-minute air cards used and uploaded onto a phone?
The one of the 15-minute air cards, you can't say it's that air card because I can't track the actual air card, but 15-minute air card was added to the phone used to call and order a pizza on June 20th in the evening, I believe it was.
So it was the same day as the homicide earlier in the evening?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything else on that receipt other than the air cards?
No, there was nothing else on this receipt.
All right. As far as your investigation goes, at some point in time, you gather all the information and it's presented to a grand jury regarding Chad Cobb's involvement. You've got the DNA, you've got the clothing, you got this outfit here, and an indictment is obtained against Chad Cobb for the murder of Ashley Biggs, correct?
That's correct.
During that process, did Chad Cobb ultimately plead guilty to most of those offenses,
Yes, he did.
and including aggravated murder?
Yes, as well as aggravated murder.
He is then sentenced in March of 2013. Is that your recollection?
Yes.
All right. So at that point in time, he has accepted responsibility for his involvement in the killing of Ashley Biggs. Is your job done at that point?
Correct, he did, say he did that, and then no, my job was not done at that point.
And why not?
I still believe that there was a female involved that made the phone call from the information that was provided to us.
And what was it about the facts and circumstances as you learned of them through your investigation led you to believe that there was more than one person involved?
The fact that, obviously we heard Matt Travis's testimony that a female had called, and I didn't, at the time, I guess he used the name Jen. That was enough to make me believe that somebody else would have been involved in it.
What about the fact that female voice asked them to come to the back of the business? Was that something that was also concerning to you?
The fact that somebody, a female could call and ask for that, I guess I'd be a little more leery if it was a guy that called and said, hey, can you come to the back of the building? And you show up and it's a dark building like that.
Okay. And what about the practical aspect of this crime? The traveling, the transportation of the body?
Objection, he's leading.
What's the specific question that you're going to ask?
Well, I'm just asking, we're talking about what led him to believe that more than one person was involved. He talked about that there was a female and that Chad's obviously male. And then I asked him, was there anything about the transportation or practical aspects of the transportation that led him to believe anything about more than one person being involved?
Okay, overruled. We'll hear the answer.
So yes, obviously that we know Ashley's vehicle was missing from the location where the delivery pizza was at. She was missing. Somebody had to drive that car away. There was no other cars at the scene. Therefore, we were looking for somebody else. We believed it would have had to either follow them out of there or, how did he get there by himself, I guess, at that point?
And what about at the field?
At the field, there was, obviously we all saw that it's a long way to anywhere around there. And somebody would have probably got picked up in what I was believing and had to take them back to wherever they were going.
Okay. So at that point in time, he's pled And you're still of the belief that there's somebody else that was involved in this? And who did you believe at that point in time was involved?
I believed that from the get-go that Erica was involved in this.
All right. And was there information from witnesses, and we won't go into the details of it, but her involvement with the custody battle?
Yes, I mean, she was involved in some of the stuff.
All right. And you talked to Brittany Dunstan about those things?
Yes.
All right. Sometime after Chad is shipped off to prison, after March of 2013, did you then try to further your investigation by talking to Chad?
I did. I drove to Lake Erie Correction Facility, tried to see if he'd want to talk to me about the case. It's, been a couple of years or whatever.
All right. And at that point in time, prior to that, he never spoke to you, fair?
That's fair.
He made no statement about what happened.
He would not talk to us about anything, yeah.
You had no details. We've heard lots of details here, but at that time, you knew no details about what actually happened that day.
Correct.
You had not heard anything about a tree?
No.
All right. What made you think that after whatever it was, a couple years, that all of a sudden he was going to spill his guts and tell you all about what happened?
During the course of his incarceration and going into the county jail, I learned that Erica ended up with Michael Stefanko. They ended up having a kid together. She got pregnant, whatever, all that stuff. And went to him to see if he'd had a change of heart and want to tell me what happened.
Well, and let's talk about that. She just doesn't end up with his best friend, does she?
Well, she ends up with his friend and then with his house and everything else.
And what did Mike Stefanko end up with?
They ended up selling all the other stuff, like the property for the business and things like that out.
So did Mike Stefanko profit from Chad Cobb's business?
Objection.
We'll do a sidebar.
Chad's life is in prison.
Do you want to rephrase?
Chad's prior life, before he went to prison.
He's with his wife. Yes, they divorced and she moved on.
All right. So you go up to see Chad, and does he talk to you?
The first time I went up there,
Yes.
he did not talk to me.
All right. So he basically said thanks, but no thanks, and you left.
Correct.
At some point later, and what year would that have been, if you recall?
I don't recall offhand.
At some point later, did you have any other contact with him or try and go see him again?
Yes, I did have contact with him a couple other times.
All right. Tell us about those contacts.
I ended up getting a letter from Chad Cobb written out to me telling me that
Well, first of all, let's not talk about what he told you. When did you get that letter?
I believe it was in 2017,
All right.
December.
All right. So December of 2017, he sends you a letter.
Correct.
Was that letter, without going into the content of the letter, the specifics, did that letter give you information regarding the homicide of Ashley Bate?
Yes, it did.
All right. And so now, is that the first movement you've had, I guess, in the case in regards to who the other person was that was involved?
Correct, in quite some time.
So did you go out and then immediately arrest anyone?
No, we did not.
Why not?
Can't really just take his word for it
Why not?
because he killed somebody and you can't trust his word completely.
He's got motive to lie.
True.
Okay. He's mad at his wife for marrying his best friend.
Correct.
Okay. So you don't go make an arrest. What do you do?
We ended up making contact with Cindy Cobb.
Well, did you go and meet with him first after you got the letter?
I did meet with him one other time, yeah, in person.
All right. And did you get a statement from him, a full statement from him?
Yes.
All right. And did he basically, did that statement essentially corroborate what he put in the letter?
Yes, it did.
All right. When you met with him and got that statement, at that point, did you go make an arrest?
No, I did not.
For the same reasons or different reasons?
For the same reasons.
All right. So during that time, did he direct you anywhere that might have been useful to you?
Yes, that's when I reached out and talked to his mother, reference an audio tape that she had in her possession.
And when was your meeting with Chad? If the letter was December of 2017, when did you meet with him?
I believe it was in early January of 18, if I'm
All
not
right,
mistaken.
so the next month, essentially.
Correct.
All right. Or at least within 60 days.
Within a time frame right there at the beginning, yes.
So he suggests you go talk to his mother, and you do.
Correct, I did.
And that's Cindy Cobb.
Yes, that's Cindy Cobb.
And you then talked to her and found out what?
Talked to her about the recording that she supposedly had. She turned it over to us.
And when you say she turned it over to us, what did she turn over to you? What physically did you get?
She gave me a digital recorder. Can't remember the exact name of the kind of recorder it was. It was just a silver recorder that had a little over a 3-hour of audio tape of conversation between her and Erica.
And it was not a thumb drive. She didn't download it from this recorder. She gave you the entire recorder.
I have the device.
All right. And then did you then download it?
Yes.
Okay. And once you downloaded that, did you have an opportunity to listen to all 3 hours of that tape?
Several times.
All right. And once you listened to that tape, what was it that was significant about that tape in regards to your investigation?
At that point, you could hear the voices on the tape, which I was very familiar with Erica's voice and Cindy's voice. Erica was on that tape making statements that she was the one who made a phone call to order the pizza, set this meeting up, along with quite a few other statements.
All right. So at this point in time, now you have it in her own words.
Correct.
What do you do at that point?
We still continued to look into other stuff. We ended up getting into contact with Mary Brinkman eventually.
All right. And at some point in time, did you, and this is earlier on in investigation, I'm kind of going backwards. As part of your investigation, you obviously had Ashley Biggs's DNA from her blood.
Correct.
You had Chad Cobb's DNA swab from his arrest.
Yes.
All right. Did you need any other DNA swabs from individuals? And if so, why?
Yeah, obviously, I wanted to get a DNA swab from Erica, just for comparison, in case we did find anything on any of the items.
All right. And so certain things like her Lincoln Navigator, you would expect to find her DNA in there, correct?
Correct.
So if there was some other female DNA in there, you'd want to exclude her?
That's correct.
All right. So did you get a court order for her DNA?
I did.
And did you then approach her about getting her DNA?
Yes.
And did she comply with the court order from Judge Corgle Jones to let you swab her for DNA?
She refused to.
All right. And ultimately, how did you end up getting the DNA?
They had to do the DNA at the court during a hearing.
All right. And so you were ultimately able to get that DNA, which ended up not aiding your investigation. Is that fair?
Correct. Didn't do anything to help us.
But regardless, she refused,
That is correct.
in spite of a court order.
Yes.
You mentioned Mary Brinkman. So after you hear the tape, you said you reached out to Mary Brinkman. Tell me about that.
We got a talk with Mary Brinkman at her home. She gave me a statement, which she testified to the other day, that Erica had come over for dinner, and that she alluded but didn't say that she was the one who made the call. She didn't want to get them involved too much, supposedly, and the fact that she dropped off Chad at the location where at 647 West Turkey Foot Lake Road.
All right. When Chad was arrested and convicted and pled guilty and sentenced, at that point in time, you already testified you did not know the details of what was happening, correct?
Correct.
At that point in time, would you have been aware of why they were hiding in the back of that barn?
I wouldn't have known why they were sitting back there hiding, no.
And when he was found, there was no blood on him, no nothing, right?
Correct. I believe it was a pair of shorts and a standard shirt. Yeah,
All
no
right.
blood on him.
Now, at some point, you found the clothes at his house, and then he's behind that barn, but you didn't know the circumstance, and I guess that they went to the field afterwards, then went home, showered, and then went back to the scene, correct?
I wouldn't have known that at first, no.
And he gave you that information.
Correct.
In regards to that information, do you recall then looking back in the evidence to see if there's anything else that corroborated his statement about going back to the scene? And maybe I'll just help you here. State's exhibit number
Hold on, let me turn the camera on.
104.
Okay. Yeah, this was behind the Lincoln Navigator on the ground, behind the barn where they were sitting on Grandpa's property.
All right. And so did he indicate, and he indicated to you that they were going back to the scene, as he told us, to clean up the scene and get the phone?
That's what he said, yes.
All right. And obviously there was a phone there.
There was a phone still there.
And they didn't make it back because there was police already there.
That's what he testified to, yes.
And what is it that's in this State's Exhibit 104? What was in that it looks like a milk crate?
Yeah, it's a milk crate. There's a scrub brush. The red cans are called Clean. It's like a brake cleaner. And then there's 2 cans of like mineral spirits.
All right. And are these like industrial type cleaner things?
Brake cleaner can be used for all kinds of things to clean things off with.
All right. As far as the vehicle, the Lincoln Navigator, was there anything about that car that indicated that it was used in the cable business or in any type of industrial, I guess, work business that would require them to have these cleaning supplies in the back?
No.
Now that you're over there, I gotta do this myself.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, Jeff. No, you're good. Oh. And I'm gonna show you here, let's see, is it marked States Exhibit
There, end up here.
123? Can you open that and tell us what that is?
This is going to be the milk crate with the brake clean, the brush, and the mineral spirits.
Okay. So those are the items that were found at the back end of that Navigator.
Yes, right behind the Navigator on the ground.
All right. Talking about the Navigator at that barn scene, you heard some testimony and some photographs of the stick figures on the back of the vehicle. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
And was there anything of note to you that you found to be interesting?
I don't know if I'd say interesting, but it was definitely a little weird. This male stick figure, which would be, I believe, would be your husband, and then the wife next door, or next to it, was peeled off. They were placed onto a vinyl fence post on the back of the barn that was kind of just hanging on the barn, and it was depicting the male hitting the female. So they tore the arm off, or somebody did, and put that arm on there so that it looked like the female was being hit.
All right. And that was on something there at the side of the barn.
A vinyl fence post.
And was it clear to you that the stick figures that were on the fence post or at that barn had come from the vehicle?
They matched up to the ones from the vehicle.
All right. Now, we've seen pictures of the stick figures on the vehicle. We have not seen the pictures as you've described them. Were there pictures actually taken?
Yes.
But we can't. Can you locate those pictures at this time?
Yeah, I thought they were uploaded into Matrix, but we actually have the actual vinyl fence post at the station still with the stickers on it.
But it's as described, as you've described it.
Exactly as it described.
Okay. If I could just have a moment, Judge.
Yep. I think actually this might be a good time for a quick break, if you're okay with that. We'll take 15 minutes.
Judge,
Are you almost done with
I
them?
think I'm just about done, so we can
Yep,
break
then go ahead.
before council takes over. Let me just- One of the, let me just take it back a little bit to when Chad had sent you the letter, okay? And now that gave you a whole lot of detail and information about what happened that night. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I think, how many pages was that letter?
I believe it's 4 pages long.
All right. And you actually have a copy of that letter?
I do. It should be in the front binder there.
Just to get some sense or idea.
Open up the blue folder next to it. Over under here. Should be underneath with the papers.
How about I bring it to you and you can show me where it is?
Okay.
Just, if you could, just hold it up just so that the jury can see kind of, it's handwritten.
It's a handwritten note from Chad Cobb
All
in 4 different pages.
right. All right. Now, we talked about the fact that he may have had motive to lie, correct?
Correct.
And obviously, he's got detail in there, but was there also, even if you were to believe him, was there other issues that you were dealing with as far as his relationship with Erica?
They weren't getting along.
No, I'm talking about a legal concern for prosecuting Erica. What was their relationship?
They were going through a divorce, but they were married at the time.
And what is that significance to you as an investigator?
There's marital spousal privilege and things that I can't
All right.
touch.
All right. However, ultimately, once you got the tape, you got some corroboration from Mary Brinkman, you then pursued charges against Erica Stefanko. Is that fair?
That's fair.
The person that you have been referring to as Erica Stefanko, previously Erica Lyon, do you see her in court today?
Yes.
And could you please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
A young lady wearing a maroon blouse and some glasses.
Your Honor, we'd ask that the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Noted, thank you.
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, then we will take a 15-minute break. We'll start back up at 10:35. I'll have Adam come get the jury. I think he's coming now.
All right.
Oh, and just, I'm sorry, before they leave, your friendly reminder not to talk to each other about the case, not to do any research. Thank you. I know you won't. Could you turn up the heat a little bit in the back? Thank you so much. Okay, go ahead and take a seat, everyone. Thank you. Attorney Laybourne, you ready? We're going back on the record for State of Ohio versus Erica Stefanko. Your witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning, sir.
Jeff, Angie, Mike, Erica.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you some questions now. New Franklin, you testified, excuse me, is a smaller town and there's a low crime rate, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And you testified that you've been involved in about 7 or 8 murder investigations.
That's correct.
Is that as a lead detective?
Most of them.
Most of them? And is this the biggest one?
I mean, they're all important.
Sure. On those 7 and 8 murders, what did you need to possess before you were able to make an arrest on those cases?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
What did you as a detective need to have before you could make an arrest on those 8 murder cases?
We ended up getting probable cause.
Probable cause. And can you explain to the jury what probable cause is?
Basically, you need to have some belief and some evidence that would lead us to believe that somebody committed the crime.
Okay. And in terms of burdens of proof, and I don't know if you were here for voir dire, it's the lowest one, and proof beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest one. Is that correct?
That's what I heard you guys talk about.
Okay. So to arrest somebody for a crime, even murder or shoplifting or whatever it may be, you need to at least have probable cause, which is a small amount of evidence that the person may have done it.
Correct.
Correct? And then you present that probable cause to a grand jury and they may return an indictment that's just based on probable cause, correct?
Correct.
So from 2012 to 2019, you undertook quite an investigation on into the death of Ashley Biggs, correct?
Yes.
We saw a treasure trove of evidence here. The means of the murder, of how he did it, what he was wearing, the victim's car, cell phones, DNA, all sorts of stuff, correct?
Yes.
And you kept after it and you kept surveillance on Ms. Stefanko, correct?
Periodically, yeah.
And you went to the prison to talk to Chad Cobb, right?
Yes, I have.
So from 2012 up to when an indictment was returned in 2019, is it fair to say you did not possess probable cause?
At that time, yeah, the grand jury didn't indict until 2019.
Despite having all of this mountains of evidence related to this case and spending all of this time and resources trying to make a probable cause case against Erica, you were unable to do so until that later date, correct?
You have to wait till some of the evidence comes forward so that you can do that.
Okay. Is it fair to say that the catalyst for you to be able to get to that probable cause was Chad Cobb himself?
Part of what he said, but I didn't take him totally on his word.
We'll get to that later, but is that what started you back on your right track here against Erica?
It led us towards the indictment eventually.
Okay. And that was through a series of meetings that you had with him and a letter that he sent to you, correct?
Correct.
In one of those meetings, did he then advise you to go talk to his mother?
He advised me that in a meeting, yeah.
Okay. So you didn't independently go out and talk to Cindy Cobb, correct?
Correct.
She didn't independently contact you, correct?
Correct.
This was, I'm not saying he was ordering you to do anything, but he directed you to maybe go talk to her, correct?
He gave me information. I followed up on that information.
During that meeting with Cindy Cobb, did she direct you to talk to Mary Brinkman?
I believe, I'm not positive on that one. I think so, but I'm not sure. I recall that.
But you're pretty sure?
I know I talked to Mary Brinkman, how that all came to a head. I'm not real positive on that one.
Okay. And after talking to Chad Cobb, after talking to Cindy Cobb and to talking to Mary Brinkman, who's a close friend of the Cobbs, at that point, you felt like you had probable cause.
After obtaining the tape recorder conversation, hearing that, and then with the statement from Mary Brinkman, that's when I contacted the prosecutor's office. We took it to the grand jury.
So in effect, the Cobbs made your case for you.
They provided information that led to this, yes.
Okay. I mean this question with all due respect. Are the Cobbs better detectives than you?
No, sometimes people hold things from us. They don't give us all the information up front. That's part of the business.
You were unable to make a case against her without the Cobbs, correct?
There was no physical evidence at the time, yes.
This tape we heard was made in 2014,
I believe
the
that's
Cindy Cobb tape.
I believe so.
And it was allegedly sitting in a safe for 4 years.
That's what she said, yes.
So that evidence existed since 2014, and you never found it, correct?
I wouldn't have known it existed.
Okay. Did you ever think to go talk to Cindy Cobb?
They didn't talk to us too often when we were charging her son.
Okay. Part of the evidence that the state's trying to use against Ms. Stefanko were statements that Grace Cobb made to a counselor when she was young, correct?
Say that again. Sorry.
Do you remember Grace Cobb coming in and testifying?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember her testifying about telling a counselor that Erica made the phone call?
Yes.
Okay. And that information was in counseling records as soon as 2013, correct?
Correct.
Do you, as a detective, have the ability to subpoena counseling records of a potential witness in a murder case?
Yes.
Did you do so?
I do have some of those records.
Okay. And did you review those?
Yes.
When did you review those?
I wouldn't offhand this long. I don't remember the exact date.
Speaking of Grace Cobb, did you take a statement from her the night of the murder?
No, she was like 6 or 7 years old.
What's the relevance of that?
I didn't talk to her that time. I was doing other stuff with the investigation.
Okay, that's a different answer. The first answer was she was 6 or 7 at the time.
Right.
Why is that relevant?
When she was young at the time, I didn't think about talking to her about that situation.
Do you think her testimony in this case is relevant?
As we see it now, yes.
You said it's not relevant because she was 6 or 7, but then she comes in and testifies about what she remembers when she's 6 or 7. So is it relevant or is she too young?
Objection, misstating.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I said objection, he's misstating his answer.
Do you want to rephrase?
Sure. I asked you if you spoke to Grace Cobb the night of the murder, correct?
Correct.
And you said no, she was 6 or 7, correct?
Correct.
Do you believe that she, at that time, was too young to give an informed statement in this case?
I wouldn't have just took a 6-year-old's word for anything at that point. I was just, I'm not going to go charge somebody just off of her word.
I'm not asking you if you were going to charge based on that. I'm asking about the work you did on this case, Detective.
Yeah,
Do you wish you to talk to her?
I guess. I mean, I had a lot of stuff going on that day. I was following up on other leads. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moving parts in this.
Are you saying you were too busy to do so?
I was extremely busy.
Too busy?
I said extremely busy.
Okay. Alexander was about that age too, correct?
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Did you take a statement from him that night?
No.
Because of some testimony that came out that Grace made her disclosure later after she had been living with Brittany Dunson, can you see why a statement at the time would be more influential on this case than the statement that she came in here and testified about?
I still wouldn't have charged.
I'm not asking you that, Detective. I'm just asking you if it would be important to this case.
If I would know that, it would be something that I would take a note of.
Is a statement that is made right after an event more reliable than one that's taken days, weeks, months, or years later?
Depends. I mean,
It depends on what?
just say it depends on the situation. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't know what.
Do you think it's possible that Brittany Dunson, because you didn't take a statement right away, that Brittany Dunson may have influenced her memories and ultimately her testimony in this case?
I wouldn't have any knowledge if she would have been talking to her and telling her those things or not. That'd be something you could have to ask Brittany Dunson.
Okay. So you found on this case pretty quickly a lot of the answers to the questions that you had. Is that correct? Like a prime suspect, right?
We learned an avenue to travel to look at obviously the first person to look at, which would have been the baby's dad.
Sure. And you're wondering, where's Ashley Biggs? You find her car and her body pretty quickly, right?
Yes,
And you issue those search warrants to all of the addresses associated with Chad Cobb, and you obtain a lot of evidence based on that, correct?
correct.
So, just a couple days after the murder, are you feeling pretty good about your investigation?
I mean, I don't know how I was feeling. I'm just trying to put everything together.
Sure. It's a lot, right?
It's a whole lot.
And you've been doing this a long time, and I'm certain that you have cases that you never really solve, right? It's just for one reason or another, right?
There are cases that go unsolved, yes.
And this isn't one of those, right?
So far, no.
Okay.
Do you have an exhibit
Yeah, thanks,
on the
Josh.
camera for you? I'll take just a second. There you go.
All right. So you took this picture, right?
Yes,
So I just want to go through, and we're going to do it quickly because the jury's already seen all this evidence, but I just want to go through all of the items that are on this picture, okay? So we've got this camo beanie, correct?
yes,
And and just generally, and you admitted this to Mr. LaPrinzi, you believe that these clothes are Chad Cobb's, correct?
I believe he was wearing those that night, yes.
He's about 6'2", 200 pounds. These are men's clothing,
Yes,
right? Okay. This camo beanie, was Miss Stefanko's DNA found on there, or blood? Any scientific evidence related to her?
her DNA wasn't found on any of that stuff.
None of this stuff here. So we've got the balaclava, we've got the makeup case, we've got the jacket, gloves, flashlight, duct tape, taser, knife, hard-knuckled gloves, and pants. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. And so do you believe all of those items in Defendant's Exhibit A to belong to Chad Cobb?
I believe he was wearing them that night. Yeah, I would assume he owns them too.
Okay. If he's wearing them,
He
probably-
weren't. They're his.
Okay, all right. So you testified that, and I'll use your words because I wrote it down. You said that you believed that Erica was involved, quote, from the get-go.
Okay.
Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. So from the get-go, she is taken from Chad's grandparents' home to the New Franklin Police Department, correct?
She was eventually, yes.
Okay. And that was with the police, took her there.
I believe one of our officers brought her back there.
Okay. Is she in custody at that point?
She was sitting in we call it an interview room in the front of the building, which it's not locked.
Okay.
That's where she was sitting. But
She
yeah.
didn't try to leave or anything?
No,
Okay.
she didn't try to leave.
Okay. And she's there, and you guys are getting information about the case. And so this is about what time, approximately?
Daylight during the morning, maybe.
So early morning?
Yes.
Okay. At what time is she released from the station and sent on her way?
I don't know. I wasn't there when she was released.
You weren't there?
No.
But your police department made a decision to release her at that point, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. And so she didn't go back into custody or into your care, so to speak, until 2019.
Correct.
Okay. As it relates to the statement, I believe she was involved, quote, from the get-go. Are you familiar with the term confirmation bias?
Want to explain it for me?
So basically, that you have an idea in your head,
Okay.
you or any detective would have an idea in their head about any topic, but let's use this case as an example, that you believe that Erica Stefanko is involved, and that you have a confirmation bias about any and all evidence or information that comes in to confirm your belief. So you throw away things that, not throw away, but set aside things that may show her innocence and highlight things that might implicate her. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I don't believe I've thrown anything away that would
I'm not
show
saying...
that she's innocent or guilty.
Okay, okay. So do you think that maybe there's some confirmation bias going on with you?
No, it's just my gut feeling from the get-go.
Okay. But your department didn't share that with you, right?
What do you mean, my department?
Were you allowed to charge her
I
up
didn't.
before 2019? Or arrest her, excuse me?
I didn't have probable cause to do so, so I wouldn't.
Okay. So you felt like she had something to do with it, but you just didn't have evidence of it.
That's correct.
Okay. Until you went and met with the cops, right?
Until I was informed, and we found obviously we got the video or the audio tape. I'm sorry.
From the cops.
Yes.
Gotcha. So this is a smaller town, and this is a very serious crime. Were you involved in the discussions, and don't tell me what they were, but were you involved in the discussions about whether to charge Chad Cobb with a death penalty specification?
No, I just charged with ag murder, and we took it to grand jury, and that's where we put it together.
Okay. But after it comes out of grand jury, you learn that ultimately Summit County Prosecutor's Office had decided to pursue that specification, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say the death penalty is reserved for the worst of the worst?
If the crime fits it,
Okay, but it's got to be one of the worst crimes.
it's got to fit the ORC code for that, yes.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that a death penalty specification on a case adds more scrutiny to that case?
I mean, it's a homicide case. I mean,
It's a homicide case, but it's a different subset of a homicide case. Is that fair?
I guess. I mean, still a homicide case to me.
Can you see a difference between a case that might end with life without parole and one that might end with the death of the suspect?
I mean, that's their decision if they commit the crime. They're the ones who committed the crime, not me.
Okay. But there's more at stake. Can you
For
see?
them,
Right, that's what we're talking about. Okay. Do you think that it causes a little bit more pressure and publicity when there's a death specification attached to a case?
pressure for who?
For the state, for the people defending Chad Cobb, for the judge, for everybody involved in that case?
Objection, Judge. He's speculating as to everybody else's pressure.
Sustained. Let's move to the next one.
As a result of the death penalty specification on Chad Cobb, did you feel pressure to charge someone else with the crime?
No.
Okay. Once you ultimately did charge Erica, and your testimony is that she's quite involved in this, correct?
Yes.
Why is she not facing the death penalty?
She was indicted for the aggravated murder and murder.
Okay. In your experience as a detective, and you said that you went to the prison and spoke with Chad Cobb, and I'm sure you've done that from time to time, right? Gone into prison?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that an inmate serving a sentence of life without the possibility of parole is on some level, more dangerous than somebody that might be getting out in a year?
I mean, I guess prison's dangerous according to what Chad said.
Sure, but wouldn't that person have a lot less to lose than the person that's going to get out?
Well, if you're going to get out eventually,
Mhm.
is that what you're getting at?
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay. So is it your understanding that, people that are, they call them lifers, they're classified differently and sometimes even housed differently?
I don't know how the prison system works like that.
You don't know how the prison system works. Okay. Is it fair to say that somebody that's serving the potential of a sentence of life without the possibility of parole would be desperate, potentially?
Anybody could feel desperate depending on the situation.
Okay. If you know, what was Chad Cobb's plan that night of the 20th and the 21st?
Objection.
We'll do a sidebar.
Let me rephrase that, Detective. So throughout the course of your investigation, which is we're at 14 years at this point, or 12 years at this point, in looking at the evidence, in speaking with all of these witnesses, in the course of your investigation, have you been able to determine what Chad Cobb's plan was that night, the 20th and the 21st?
What his actual plan was, like to commit homicide?
Yeah, if that's what it was, or if it was something less nefarious.
I mean, after listening to the audio tape that I had, it seemed that there was a plan in place to kill Ashley Biggs.
Okay.
Because you can't keep someone's skull as a trophy, I guess, if they're not dead.
Sure. Did you hear when he testified that his only plan was to go to Disney World?
He did say Disney World, yeah, about going there.
Okay. Do you believe him?
Well, he had airline tickets.
Okay. But do you believe him that that was his only plan for being in that parking lot that night?
No, I don't believe that was the reason he was there.
Okay.
Just to go to Disney World.
Could he have been there to just scare her, potentially?
Objection, speculation.
I'm gonna let you answer. Overruled.
Go ahead and say it again.
Is it possible that since you're not clear on what his plan was, you can't get inside his head? Fair enough? Okay.
Fair enough.
So is it possible that he could have just been there to scare her?
Dressed like this, I would have my doubts.
Okay. You testified that you took samples of the physical evidence and sent swabs or even whole items to BCI for various scientific testing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, there were no matches to Erica Stefanko on any of that evidence, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you testified, and I just want to clear something up, that you can only send a limited amount to BCI at one time. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
You're allowed to submit so many evidence items at a time to BCI because everybody in the state and the different divisions of the state send everything to one lab. So if I would send 150 items to them, I'm going to bog them down just on my one case. So you take the items as you see them probative and send those out first.
Okay. Is it fair to say, Detective, that if you started to develop information that maybe a different piece of evidence or a different swab became relevant, you could send that to BCI, correct?
Eventually, I could send more stuff, yes.
Right. So it's not like they say, hey, you've reached your limit of 10 items, right?
Correct.
So when you started to, and you never lost your belief that Erica was involved, but when you started to get some evidence of that, did you send out more items to BCI to be tested for her presence of DNA?
No, there was no physical evidence that she was there.
Okay. You said that you collected a DNA swab, and I'm confused on what year was that from her.
It had been during that court hearing. I can't remember when it was.
Would it have been 2012,
No.
2013?
We'd have to look at the court records for the exact date. I don't remember that.
Okay, but the DNA testing and things were done in 2013, correct?
Periodically through then, yes.
And in that DNA testing, they had a DNA standard from Erica Stefanko, correct?
Correct.
To test against, and she wasn't present. So she had to have provided that sample in 2012 or 2013, correct?
Most likely, I would believe, but I'd have to look at the records, like I said.
I'm not trying to trick you, Detective.
I know,
We're
I'm
just
just
getting
saying.
through this.
I don't want to say the wrong stuff.
I hear you. We want to be accurate, but is it fair to say that they were able to do the testing of her standard because they had it, right?
Which we'll stipulate that they had her standard at that time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, you testified about how you had to go and get it in a courtroom, correct?
Correct.
Do you know if Erica was represented by counsel at that time?
I believe she was.
Is it possible she's following the advice of counsel?
Possible.
People, you hope so, listen to their attorneys, right?
They should.
Okay. So during the prosecution of Chad Cobb, you were the lead detective on his case as well, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so as that case is proceeding through the courts, you're keeping an eye on it, fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Were you going to hearings?
Not all of them. Some of them.
Did you go to his plea hearing?
Yes.
Okay. So you were there?
Yes.
Was that a long proceeding or a short proceeding?
I don't know how long, maybe an hour or two.
An hour or two? And you've been involved in hundreds of cases, and you probably sat in for a lot of pleas, or you're familiar with them, right?
Yeah.
The judge asks any defendant that's pleading a number of questions, right?
Correct.
So they talk about whether they are willing to give up their right to go to trial, right?
Yes.
They're asking if they're willing to give up their right to subpoena witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, testify if they want, all that stuff, right?
Correct.
And the judges take special care to make sure that it is a knowing, voluntary, and intelligent plea, correct?
Yes, they do.
Do you believe that Judge Corrigal Jones asked those questions of Chad Cobb? Do you recall?
I believe she did.
Okay. And did you hear any pushback from Chad Cobb during that hour or two plea hearing about the voluntariness of his plea?
I don't recall everything that was said. I mean, like you said, it was 2013-ish.
Okay. She ultimately accepted the guilty pleas, correct?
Yeah, she did.
And again, this was a death penalty case, so things might be done even a little more careful, right?
Possibly, yeah.
And are you familiar with Judge Corrigal Jones?
She had one case in her courtroom.
Okay. Did she strike you as a type of judge that would accept a plea if it wasn't voluntary?
I don't think any judge would.
I agree. So after you sat there Well, let me go back. He pled as a result of an agreement between the state and his attorneys, correct?
I would guess they did, yeah. They came to an agreement and he pled to all the charges.
I'm not. There was a plea agreement in this case,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And what's your understanding of what that plea agreement was?
He's gonna do life in prison.
Okay. And was that life without the possibility of parole?
Correct.
And in exchange, the state would do what?
Drop the death penalties back on him.
Okay. And so you sat there for that whole sentencing, plea, and then you went to the sentencing as well, correct?
Yes.
And to your recollection, did Chad Cobb bring up that Erica Stefanko was involved at that time?
He didn't tell us anything at first.
Okay. And he got sentenced to life without parole pursuant to the agreement, and he went off on his way, right?
That's correct.
But you kept going, right?
Periodically, I still listened to phone calls and tried to.
When you mentioned that surveillance, what did that entail?
Just checking every now and then to see making sure she's still in the same spot. Just, that's it. See where she was. That's all there is to it.
Like a stakeout, kind of?
No, more like driving down the road and seeing, yeah, that's her car and there she's still living there.
Okay. Seeing who's moving in with her.
No, I already knew that.
So, how did you feel when, after sitting through that plea and the sentencing of Chad Cobb, of a case that you investigated, you led, how did it make you feel when that guy, just months later, tries to withdraw his plea?
That's normal procedure. You see that a lot with people trying to appeal their charges, appeal their case, I guess.
You're testifying that that's normal?
People do appeals, yeah.
To withdraw their plea?
Well, that I don't. I'm saying make an appeal. People do that.
After a trial, that is extremely common. I agree with you. Is that what you're saying?
That, or if you plead to a case, people can ask to have a trial later. They can do their best. It's up to them.
So that's just a normal thing in your opinion?
In my opinion,
Okay. So how did it make you feel that he now is going back on what he said?
it's up to me. It doesn't make me feel anyway.
Okay. Did you see an opportunity there
For what?
to put pressure on Chad Cobb?
No.
You didn't see that as an opportunity.
No.
If he's trying to revive the case, right, which is what he's trying to do, and undo his guilty plea, did you see that as maybe an opportunity that he might start talking?
Considering he didn't reach out to me till 2017, 18? No.
Okay. You said that when you went to prison to visit Chad, you did that as a result of Mike Stefanko stepping into Chad Cobb's old life. Is that correct?
I don't think that was my exact words, but she did something that I'm sure that would have made him feel scorned.
Okay.
And you try to, use what you can to find out information.
Did you see that as an opportunity?
That's why I drove up there to see if I could get him to talk about it.
Okay. So is it fair to say you were trying to use her new relationship, and are you aware she's still married to Mike Stefanko to this day?
Yes.
Okay. And he's taking care of the kids and all that?
Yeah.
Okay. You tried to use this new relationship to put pressure on Chad to give information, correct?
No, he never talked to me. He never even got a chance to say anything.
But ultimately he did, correct?
5 years later, yeah, he decided to come forward.
Okay. Correct? He did.
5 years. 5 years later, yeah.
Okay. As a detective, do you think that information that is the result of pressure is better or worse than information that is just disclosed without any pressure?
We'd be speculating at that point. I don't know.
Can you see how information obtained as a result of pressure might be questioned a little bit more?
I mean, it could be questioned.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, you can question it, but I didn't charge strictly on what he said. I waited until I had an audio tape with your defendant's voice on it and took that to the grand jury.
Okay. Would you, well, let me just ask you this. Do you believe Chad Cobb?
What part?
All of it.
I believe he killed Ashley Biggs. I believe what he...
So hold on, we'll just start with that. So if you believe that he killed Ashley Biggs, then you do not believe Chad Cobb, correct?
I believe that he killed her. That's,
Okay, and he got on that witness stand and said that he did not, correct?
Yeah.
So you do not believe Chad Cobb.
I don't believe that statement he said, yes.
Okay. So, and that's one of the fundamental issues in this case. Is that fair?
What, to believe people?
No. Who killed somebody? So if you're assigned a murder investigation, one of the most fundamental questions, probably the most fundamental question, is who did it? Fair enough?
He pled to it.
Okay. Is that a fundamental question in a murder investigation? Who did it?
Yeah.
Okay. And the person that you think did it is now saying that they did not, correct?
Correct.
So is that an issue for his credibility?
It'd be his issue, not mine.
With all due respect, detective, you don't think that that's your problem?
No.
Are you the lead detective on the investigation and prosecution of who killed Ashley Biggs?
Yeah, and that subject admitted to it. And what he does after that, that's his choice.
Does it cause questions in your mind that maybe you don't have the right person?
No. He's in prison for what he did. That's what he should
So you don't believe him, correct?
I think I said that already once earlier today about
So
his statement.
is it fair to say he is not a credible witness, in your opinion?
That's the
Don't
jury's
answer that.
purview.
Hold on.
Objection.
Come up. Sidebar.
Let me ask something in a different way. We've established that, who killed Ashley Biggs is extremely important to this case, correct?
He killed her, yeah.
I'm sorry. So is the identity of the person responsible for killing her, is that important in a murder investigation? Sounds silly, but is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So is it then relevant if that person that said they did it, servant LWOP, then says that they did not? Under oath. Is that important?
You're asking me if I believe him, though.
I'm asking you if that's important to the case.
To her case? No.
Okay. Does Chad Cobb have a motive to lie or embellish in this case?
I'm sure if he's trying to get out of on an appeal, he could do anything he wants to do. That's why I wouldn't charge her strictly on what he says.
It's not what I'm asking, sir. Chad Cobb can do what he wants to do within the rules and regulations of the Ohio Department of Corrections, correct?
Correct?
Does he have a motive to lie?
I wouldn't know what his motive is for, what motive? What are you looking for? I mean,
Does he have hope that he's getting out?
well, yeah, he's told us that.
Okay. So do you think that there would be a motive to assist himself in getting out?
He can try anything he wants to do and say what he wants to try to get out.
Okay. Does Cindy Cobb have a motive to lie or embellish on behalf of her son?
Some parents might.
Does Cindy Cobb want Chad Cobb out of prison?
Yeah, she stated she did.
Are you aware of efforts that she's undertaken to assist him in that?
I believe she testified about going through records requests and those kind of things.
On what date did you get the tape from Miss Cobb?
2018?
2018.
January.
And what was the date that it was allegedly recorded?
March of 2014, I believe.
Okay. Through your investigation, do you have any explanation of that long 4-year gap before the delayed disclosure of this evidence?
You like, why didn't I have it? What are you saying?
Yeah. Why didn't you have it?
She didn't turn it over to me.
Okay. Do you know why?
No idea.
Okay. Is it fair to say that you don't know what was going on this tape between when it was recorded and when it was turned over? It was not in your possession, correct?
Correct.
You don't know what was happening with it.
Just what she said. She put it in a safe.
So we've got to take Cindy Cobb's word for it, correct?
I just took the tape recording for its word.
But we've got to take her word for how it was recorded, how it was stored, and the chain of custody. Is that correct?
Yes.
And her word alone, right?
It was in their possession, yes.
Now, shortly after you met with Miss Cobb, she directed you to go talk to Mary Brinkman, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how it was, but I ended up talking with Mary Brinkman.
Okay. And so at the same time that you get this tape, you get information from Mary Brinkman, correct?
Yes.
Did you find that coincidental?
Like I said, people come forward years later. Some people hide stuff from us. So do I find it coincidental? No. It just happened to come forward then.
Sure. Evidence comes forward later, and you never know where the investigation is going to lead, correct?
Right.
But what we're talking about here, Detective, is a tape, a letter from Chad Cobb, a tape from his mother, and then a statement from their very good family friend, all in the same time period, correct?
Within a year, yeah.
Within a year. And it started with Chad Cobb told you to talk to Cindy Cobb, told you to talk to Mary Brinkman, correct?
Don't know if it was in exactly that order, but yeah, we ended up talking to everybody and getting all that information.
Would you say that those witnesses all know each other very well?
They all admitted that they know each other.
Did you receive any information about Ms. Stefanko's alleged involvement from someone that wasn't a Cobb or someone that wasn't a close personal friend of the Cobbs?
No.
None.
No.
At the time of the murder in 2012 and 2013, when you were investigating this case, did you ever, we know you didn't interview Grace, and we know you didn't interview Alexander, and we know you didn't interview Cindy Cobb. Did you ever interview Mary Brinkman?
Yeah, we just talked about that.
In 2012?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I didn't know who Mary Brinkman was back in 2012.
Okay. And you heard that, Cindy and Grace and Mary Brinkman visit Chad Cobb, correct?
Yeah.
So prior to you receiving all of this, the Cobb evidence in 2018, is it fair to say they would have spoken to each other?
Possible, yeah.
Okay. Well, they testified to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, you wrote in your report, Detective, that a number associated with Chad Cobb called Cindy Cobb, quote, numerous times the night of the murder. Do you recall that?
Say that again?
In your report, and there's been testimony about it as well,
Okay.
Chad Cobb called Cindy Cobb numerous times the night of the murder after he killed Ashley Biggs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you try to talk to Cindy Cobb as a result of those numerous phone calls?
Cindy Cobb didn't want to talk with us.
What efforts did you make to talk to Cindy Cobb?
She's trying to reach out, let her know. I mean, we charged her kids. They did not talk to us. They had attorneys, so they had Beth Judge.
Sure, but she's also a witness at that point, correct?
She would be. Well, is she a witness? Yeah, because she got a phone call.
I would submit she's a witness because she talked to the murderer right after the murder happened.
Yeah,
You
I just
agree?
said that. He took a phone call from her.
Okay. So a lot of cases involve witnesses that are also related to the alleged perpetrator, correct?
Yes?
Domestic violence cases, for instance.
Correct.
All sorts of things that happen in a household.
All sorts of things.
Does that familial connection then prevent you from talking to witnesses just because they're related?
No. Only for marital stuff.
Okay. So do you wish you'd have made more effort to talk to Cindy Cobb
No.
right after the murder?
She didn't want to talk to us. I mean, I can't force you.
Did you do an investigation into Cindy Cobb?
There was no evidence that was leading to show Cindy Cobb was involved in anything,
None.
other than receiving a phone call from her son.
You said numerous phone calls.
You said numerous, I said phone calls, so same thing.
In your report, Detective, you said numerous phone calls. I can show it to you if you'd like.
I have it highlighted. I'm sure there was more than one call.
Okay. So we agree.
There was more than one call, yes.
Okay. So aside from more than one phone call to his mother, there's nothing else that would make her a potential witness for this case.
Not that I'm aware of. Nothing came forward, and there was no evidence to show that she was involved in anything.
You said that where Ashley's body was taken by Chad was close to nothing. Do you remember on direct examination?
I believe it was, yeah, at the time, yeah. We didn't know where she lived.
Okay. But now, in 2024, that site is not close to nothing, right? It's close to something, and what is that something?
Close to Chad's parents' house. It's close to Erica's house.
It's close to Cindy Cobb's house, correct?
Yeah.
Chad testified a 5-minute walk, correct?
Probably a little more than 5, but yeah.
6?
If you can make it in 6, let me know.
Okay. So, your suspect, who you charged alone with the death penalty, calls a person multiple times right after the murder, and then is in and around the area with the body of that person's home. And you just called a couple times to talk to that witness?
We didn't know that she lived there at the time when the homicide took place. I didn't learn that till later.
When did you learn that, Detective?
I don't remember.
You issued search warrants for all properties associated with Chad Cobb, correct?
Correct.
So you were looking up addresses. That night, that morning,
That's correct.
was the Cobb parents' home included in that list of addresses?
No, so once we searched the home at Chad's house, there was a slew of evidence that kept us pinned on that right there.
If Chad Cobb had called Erica Stefanko multiple times right after the murder, would you find that to be relevant?
I would reach out to her and talk to her, but then again, she's married to him, so she wouldn't be able to talk to me.
You're just running into brick walls everywhere, right? The Lincoln Navigator that was found at Rex Lake Road, you said you found it very odd that it was there, correct? At that time of night, right?
Strange place to be with that family,
Okay.
yeah.
What address was the Lincoln Navigator registered at?
At the house at 731 Rex Lake Road, grandparents' house.
So that Lincoln Navigator was registered to that address, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You were not there when Chad Cobb was apprehended, correct?
I was not.
Okay. So you don't know if he was confused or knew what was going on or anything like that, correct?
No idea.
Okay. And you heard testimony that Erica was confused, correct?
I think they said that didn't know why she was there or something.
Didn't know what was going on, right? Okay. And you testified about a series of stick figure drawings and things on the back of the Navigator, and the man and the woman, the husband and wife on that, had been removed. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And I think you said that the removed portion was placed on a post and a picture was taken, but you've misplaced that.
I thought I uploaded everything in there. I thought it was there. I actually have the actual stick figures and the post at the station still.
But you lost the picture.
Yeah. Don't know that I lost it, but I thought it was all in this stuff, so.
It's been misplaced
According to what I'm hearing, yes.
in a murder case.
Yes.
And do you think it holds extra importance that it shows the man on that stick figure hitting the woman and then it's misplaced?
The picture's misplaced is what we're saying. I have the actual evidence still.
Well, I'll save you some trouble. Showing you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit B. We have it misplaced.
Objection, Judge.
Let's do a sidebar.
I would-
Okay,
It's the commentary, Judge.
Yeah.
okay, we'll settle on the commentary. Can you strike that
this
also,
what we're-
Christy? Hold on. Can you just strike that from the record also, Christy? Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, Detective. Is this the picture that you misplaced?
Obviously, it's not misplaced. You have it.
Okay. Is this the picture that we're talking about?
Yes.
And we saw the picture, and I'll just show you Defendant's Exhibit C. This is just, so let me show you Exhibit C first. Defendant's Exhibit C. So this is the back of the Lincoln Navigator, correct?
Appears to be, yes.
Okay, and we've got, you see these around sometimes, it's a depiction of characters in a family, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so here, right here next to the girl in the dress, it looks like there were two figures that were removed, correct?
Yes, I testified to that already.
Okay, so we've got an older girl, an older boy on a four-wheeler, a younger girl, and then a young boy. Then we got 3 dogs and chickens. Is that what you see there?
That's pretty accurate.
That lines up with the Cobb household as of 2012. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. So just to remind everybody, Erica's in the car, in the passenger seat on Rex Lake, and Chad Cobb's hiding in the woods, correct?
That's what I was told, yes.
So Chad Cobb's out of the car, Erica's in the car. And also outside of the car, and it's depicted here in Defendant's Exhibit B, are that the husband and wife stickers from that Navigator were removed and put on a fence post?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your testimony that those stickers were further manipulated?
It appears, it's hard to see it, but it appears to be, yes.
Okay, and I agree. it looks like it was taken at night, so it's difficult to see, so do your best. And how was it manipulated?
Like I said earlier, I believe that the male had his arm kind of removed so that it would show him hitting on the girl.
Okay. Does that have any significance to you, Detective?
Seeing that after learning what we've learned, yeah, it shows that, a male beat a female.
It shows that a male beat a female.
That's what it looks like.
Okay. This was not Chad Cobb and Ashley Biggs's navigator, correct?
No, it was Erica's car with Chad.
It was Chad Cobb and Erica Stefanko's navigator, correct?
Yeah.
So when you say that a woman was beaten, are you saying that this is depicting Ashley Biggs?
I can't be in somebody's mind, but I would assume that, after he just did what he did, maybe that's what he was doing. It's kind of a sick humor, I guess.
But if those are the family stickers, that would be Erica Stefanko.
If that's what you're thinking, he's thinking. I don't know what he's thinking.
It's hard to know what he's thinking. Is that fair?
That is true.
Did you find blood on the passenger side of that navigator?
I believe there was some blood on the dash they did a blind swab for.
Whose blood was that?
I'd have to look at the record to see about it, but I thought it was Ashley's, but I'm not positive.
Okay. Now, we heard testimony from Dr. Kohler that those zip ties that were used, those 3 to 4 foot long cable ties,
Yeah.
the one that was around her neck would require significant force to pull that tight, correct?
Correct.
After your officers find Chad in the woods and Erica in the car, did you inspect the two of them for injuries?
Yes.
And what did you discover?
I had BCI check Chad for his hands and stuff for any kind of scratches or abrasions or anything, and just do the evidentiary photos for that. So they collected everything like that, and then I didn't see anything on Erica that I remember of offhand.
Okay, so let's just start with Erica. Erica did not have any injuries to her?
I did not see anything.
Okay, but you looked, right?
I talked to her in person, so me being standing here like this, I didn't see anything visible.
If we have a person that, as you testified, is involved from the get-go,
Right.
would it be important to you to inspect that person's body for evidence, especially wounds?
I looked at her and I saw nothing.
Okay. Did you take pictures of that, document that lack of injuries?
No, because there was no injury that I noticed on her.
Do you wish you had done so, Detective?
To show she had no injuries?
Yes.
She didn't have any injuries. There was nothing to note.
Okay. So if it doesn't fit into your theory from the get-go, you don't want to document it, correct?
There was no reason to document it. I can testify that she had no injuries in her.
You're testifying now.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. But when it doesn't fit your theory, you don't document it, correct?
I didn't even think of it that way.
Is it fair to say that may be an example of confirmation bias that we talked about earlier?
No, not that soon on.
Okay, let's move on. Chad Cobb was inspected, you'd said by BCI?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you learn through your investigation about what injuries he had?
I believe he had some like scrapes or stuff on his hands that I noticed. Can't remember about his legs, but he had shorts on when we were talking to him, but I don't remember offhand without looking at those photos again.
Okay, so he did have wounds, correct?
I would say abrasions, yeah.
Abrasions? Okay, and those were on his hands?
Yeah, he had some marks on his hands.
Okay, and did you document those?
BCI did.
BCI did? Okay. But you did not ask BCI to inspect and document Erica, correct?
I don't remember if I did that or not. I wasn't at the station when they even checked Chad Cobb
Okay, where were you?
at the cornfield with the car.
Okay. Chad Cobb testified to a quote, horrible fight in that parking lot. You remember that?
Yes?
Did you, through your investigation, find evidence of a quote, horrible fight?
A lot of blood, so I'd say, yeah, somebody got injured pretty good there.
Okay. Through your investigation and through the evidence, would you say that that was a one-sided fight?
I think she tried to defend herself a little bit, but yeah, she wasn't able to do that, obviously.
Do you believe Chad Cobb when he says that he was defending himself?
No, I think he was there to kill her.
Going back to the Navigator, and I don't even think we need to put the picture up, but you said that there was brake cleaner in that milk crate, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's called clean or something like that.
Okay. And you said that that could be used for all sorts of purposes. Is one of those purposes to clean brakes?
It could be used for brake cleaning as well.
And some of the other items are just items that somebody may have in their household.
True.
Okay. And these are items that could be easily procured at Walmart or a grocery store or something like that, correct?
Pretty much any kind of hardware store or whatever you want to go to.
And you don't know who put that in there or took it out, correct?
I do not.
But you do know that when officers arrived, Ms. Stefanko was in the car and Chad Cobb was outside of the car, correct?
That's what I was told, yes.
Is it possible that some of those items could be used as part of a cable installation business?
Which, the cleaning
The
stuff?
things in that crate, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not in the cable business, so I wouldn't think so.
Detective, you found, and Mr. LaPrinzi showed a picture of it, an earring, I guess you called a stud earring, in that parking lot, correct?
There was one, yes.
Okay. Did you learn through your investigation who that earring belongs to?
I believe it was Ashley's, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Was that earring matched up to an earring that stayed in her ear?
I don't recall.
Was that earring tested for DNA?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
I don't recall.
Do you know personally if there was any effort to match that earring to an earring that was in Ashley Biggs's ear?
And I just answered, and I said I don't recall if there was or not.
Do you think that that could be an important piece of evidence?
Her blood was at the scene.
If that earring could be linked back to Erica Stefanko, would that be relevant to your case?
Sure.
Extremely relevant?
Yes.
Maybe even lead off with that, right?
Could be, but
So what effort did you take specifically, you as the lead detective, overseeing everything that's happening in this case, to link that earring to either Erica Stefanko or Ashley Biggs?
I don't believe that she's the one who actually killed. I just think she called.
So the investigation goes where you believe it should go. Is that correct?
I just tried to follow the evidence that I had at the time.
But if you don't believe it's important, you don't track it down.
Well, I try to remember everything. Sometimes I can't. It's a huge case. I mean, sometimes you miss
It's a huge
stuff.
case. And if there's evidence involved in that case that helps the defendant, it seems like you don't document it.
I mean, it's documented. We have it. Did I test it? I don't recall.
You don't investigate it.
Okay. That's yours right to say that.
Is that because it doesn't fit with your theory, detective?
No. This recording that she has,
I'm not asking about the recording.
Objection, Judge.
Does the earring...
Hold on, we have an objection.
He's trying to answer the question. He's interrupting his answer.
Yeah, Attorney Laborn, we'll just bring it down a little bit. We'll give the witness an opportunity to answer, please.
So I asked you a question about the earring, and you were saying something about the recording. Go ahead.
I'm just good. I was just talking about the recording. I mean, once I have that, I don't need to test more stuff.
So I guess, is it fair to say that that earring found at the crime scene of a woman that allegedly involves another woman was never tested?
I said I do not recall if it was tested.
So is it also fair to say that that's not Erica's earring?
I don't think it is.
But we will never know, will we?
No.
Because you never tested it.
I just said I don't recall if it was tested.
Do you wish you had, in hindsight, now that we've gone through this trial?
I wish I could have tested a lot of stuff. Wish I could have had more evidence, but I only get what I have.
Detective, when a person calls a pizza delivery place, those places typically have multiple drivers, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And even if you drove by a place and you saw that one driver was there at the store, there could be another driver that's out making deliveries, correct?
Possibility, yeah.
Okay. So on this night, on June 20th, 2012, which you say started with this plan to lure Ashley out by the ordering of the pizza, correct?
Yes.
Is it possible that a different driver could have showed up that night?
Anything's possible, yeah.
Is it possible that, as we heard Matt Travis testify, he would go along with his drivers, especially the female drivers, late at night?
Sometimes he said he did.
So there's no guarantee that, number one, Ashley shows up to deliver that pizza, and number two, that she's alone, correct?
Correct.
So if that's the plan, would you say that that's a problem with that plan?
If he would have came, then it may have changed their plan. I don't know.
Sure. Then I think he felt some regret about that, right?
Who, him?
Yeah, Mr. Travis.
I would assume.
Okay. In addition to the earring, you did find Ashley's flip phone, you called it there, correct?
Yes.
And just to confirm, was that tested for DNA and fingerprints?
I don't recall.
You don't recall.
I don't.
Is it your understanding that my client's DNA, neither my client's DNA nor fingerprints showed up on that phone?
Yeah, her DNA wasn't on anything.
Okay. But you don't know if it was tested?
I just said I don't recall if it was tested.
You showed a Walmart photo, and it was just a still photo of them walking in or out.
That would have been walking out.
Okay, and you said they paid for them. Did Chad Cobb pay for those cards?
I believe so.
Okay, so he paid for them.
Yes.
Okay. And in that photo, Chad Cobb's in front and Erica's in back, correct?
Yes.
And she appears to be holding an infant or
Yeah, she was
young
holding
child?
one of her babies. Yeah.
You talked about the pinging the phone, correct?
Yes.
Are you a cell tower expert?
No.
Okay. Have you ever been sworn in and testified as an expert as it relates to cell tower technology or pinging?
No.
So is it fair to say you don't know all the ins and outs of that subject?
Yeah, I don't know all the every aspect of cell phones.
Okay. And you believe that that phone was quote unquote nearby, but not on West Turkey Foot, right?
I believe it was in the vicinity there.
But you didn't give that address when given an address.
No, they give you a latitude and longitude to tell you where roughly the phone is going to be in that area.
And was that latitude and longitude on West Turkey Foot Lake Road?
I believe there was one around the corner on Melcher, and there was one that was on West Turkey Foot Lake Road.
And do you know who's using that phone?
No, we still don't know who was using the phone other than the recording that tells us that Erica's the one who made the call.
Now, you say that with certainty, right?
What's that?
That Erica made the call.
I mean, it's her words on the recording.
Do you have any sort of evidence, aside from that recording, that Cindy Cobb made and held on to for 4 years, that she made that call?
No, just the recording. That was the recording part, and then somebody else said something, I think, but I can't remember who it was. Yeah, that'd be it.
So the answer is no?
Just the recording.
So there is no cell phone data technology or data information that links her to that call?
No, cell phone companies can't tell who calls who.
Right. It's not her phone, right?
It's a burner phone, no.
Okay. And she didn't buy the cards, right?
No, she was just there when they were purchased.
And is it fair to say we heard contradicting testimony on where that call was placed from during this trial?
Objection, that's purview of the jury.
Do you remember, I'll withdraw that, Judge. Do you remember Grace Cobb testifying that the call was made from inside the vehicle?
I believe she said that Mom was sitting in the car, and then she made a comment that she wasn't sure if it was in the car or not out of the car. She was a little confused, I thought, but she said her mom was in the car.
Grace Cobb was confused?
I think when you asked her that, she said she woke up, she thought her mom was in the front seat, if I'm not mistaken, for the testimony.
And it was 12 years ago, right?
2012.
Yeah. And she was 6 or 7 years old?
Yes.
Okay. Detective, you stated a couple minutes ago that you wish you had more evidence, right?
You always wish you had more.
As a detective, the more the better, right?
Usually.
In your training and experience in doing 7 or 8 murders, would you say you have a lot of evidence against Chad Cobb?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of evidence.
Okay. And would you say that in comparison to that, you have a little bit of evidence against Ms. Stefanko?
Objection, Judge, that's a purview of the jury to weigh the evidence.
Yeah, sustained. We'll move to the next one.
So you had a lot of evidence against Chad Cobb, but you testified you didn't have enough for probable cause to charge Erica, correct?
Objection, that's a misstatement of his testimony.
All right, let's do a sidebar. Bring it up, please.
Let me clarify. In 2012, did you have enough probable cause to charge Erica Stefanko?
No.
How about 2013?
No.
14?
No.
15?
Not until 2018, 19.
2018, 19. And what happened in 2018 and 2019?
That's when the recording came to light. Chad talked to us about some stuff, and Mary Brinkman gave her statement.
But not in that order, correct?
Yeah, I said they're not in that order, no.
Okay, so the first thing was you talked to Chad Cobb at the prison, right?
Yep, and then he told me no.
And your testimony was that he has some credibility issues because he's serving life, right?
Yeah, you don't want to take his word solely.
Sure. And then this person whose word you shouldn't take solely told you to talk to his mother, correct?
Yes.
The mother of the person that may have credibility issues, right?
Possible.
And then that woman told you to talk to Mary Brinkman, correct?
I believe it was that way, yeah.
A close family friend of Jay and Cindy Cobb, correct?
I believe they were friends with Chad before Cindy Cobb.
Okay. She testified yesterday they go over there and hang out, right?
They did afterwards, yeah.
Okay. So only until the Cobbs got involved and helped you with your case were you comfortable that you had probable cause in this case. Is that correct?
Until I put all that together with the recording, no. Once everything came together, then yes, there was enough to go to the grand jury and get an indictment.
Okay. And just so we're clear, all of that evidence came from the Cobbs or someone that's close family friends, correct?
Cindy Cobb testified she's the one who recorded the conversation.
Okay. And that's Chad Cobb's mother, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just one moment, Your Honor. Judge, I have no further questions. Thank you, Detective.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Redirect from the state.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, I'm showing you what's been previously identified by you as State's Exhibit 127, correct?
Yes.
I think Mr. Laybourne has established through you and through this evidence that Chad Cobb was wearing this uniform, whatever this thing is, outfit, on the night that Ashley died, correct?
That's correct.
You never saw him wear that item, these items, did you?
No, I didn't see it.
So how can you make that determination if you never saw him?
I would just say that the clothes are the size for a guy. I mean, maybe floating on a female a little bit.
Well, how about the fact that the tape matches?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously with the evidence lines up with all the tape and stuff with the BCI matched and said it all comes together. So we all know it comes to Chad's house.
So you heard us talk about circumstantial evidence and direct evidence.
Yes,
So you didn't have to actually see this to use your common sense and reason to say that Chad Cobb used that.
no,
All right. Mr. Laybourne went to great lengths to, I guess, disparage your character or your abilities as a detective. You remember that? I believe that's a correct characterization of what happened.
Disparagement was not my intent. If that's what occurred.
Do you want to rephrase as question?
He questioned your abilities as a detective.
yes,
All right. All the things he pointed out to you, such as the earring, right? Any error that he suggests you made in his Monday morning quarterbacking would favor Erica Stefanko, wouldn't they?
yes,
Because if you had tested it and it was Ashley's, that, okay, fine. But if it was hers, you missed it.
correct.
So all those things he pointed out to you that are errors actually help her, don't they?
Yes,
Probable cause. He talked about that. Probable cause doesn't mean little evidence, does it?
no,
It's more likely than not.
correct.
And you don't make that determination, do you?
I do not.
When you have evidence that you think is enough, you take it to a prosecutor, the prosecutor then takes it to the grand jury, and they make the determination.
Correct.
And then, after that, we bring it before these folks right here, and they make a determination.
Correct.
This is not your decision.
No,
During your investigation, including all the potential mistakes that Mr. Laybourne believes we made or you made as an investigator, is there any evidence, legitimate evidence, through your years of experience, that would lead you to believe that anyone other than Erica Stefanko is the one that made that call and assisted Chad Cobb in that murder?
Objection.
Basis.
It's leading, calls for speculation.
Do you want to rephrase?
I don't.
We'll rephrase them.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Laybourne asked you about your opinions about Chad Cobb killing Ashley, correct?
Yes,
And he asked you, do you believe that he is the one that actually did the killing?
correct.
In regards to his client, did you locate any evidence to suggest that she was not, or did you or didn't you find any evidence to suggest that Erica wasn't the one that made the call and helped him?
No,
If you had, would you have looked at it?
yes,
Do you care whether it was Erica or Cindy Cobb?
no,
Why not?
because I want to make sure we get the right person. I don't care who it was. If they committed the crime, I want to get the right person and put them behind the jail.
In regards to the BCI testing, once they find Ashley's blood on what we are using our common sense to indicate is Chad Cobb's clothing, how much more important is it to test other items of clothing to see if her blood's on there?
It's not.
Okay. Mr. Laybourne went through a whole series of questions regarding the Cobbs and what led you to take this case to the grand jury feeling that you had probable cause. Was it Cindy Cobb's words that prompted you to believe you had probable cause?
No,
Was it Chad Cobb's words?
no,
Was it Mary Brinkman's words?
no.
Whose words were they?
Erica Stefankos?
He talked about motive. He talked about Cindy Cobb having a motive to lie to help her son. And you said, sure, any mom might want to lie or exaggerate to help their son. And Chad Cobb's in prison and he might want to get out. And he might exaggerate or lie to get out. Correct?
Correct.
Did you know of any motive for Erica Stefanko to lie about her involvement in the murder of Ashley Biggs?
Objection.
Basis.
Calling for the state of mind of the defendant.
Judge, he asked every question of each one of those witnesses.
Okay, stop, sidebar. And you may need to ask again.
I will. Thank you, Judge. So you were asked a series of questions by Mr. Laybourne about each of the state's witnesses and if they each had a motive to lie or exaggerate their statement. Is that fair?
Yes,
And you indicated honestly, I believe, that they each may have had motivation.
correct.
Mrs. Stefanko made a statement to Cindy Cobb in our recording. And that's not an official statement, but she made statements to her. Do you recall that?
Yes,
And in the circumstances of that statement, those statements she made to Cindy Cobb, as a detective, did you find there was some motivation for her to lie to Cindy Cobb?
there would be no reason for her to lie to Cindy about what's on that tape.
So let's talk about that tape. At approximately 14 and a half minutes in that tape, Miss Lyons is talking, or Miss Cobb is talking, and says, but I mean that he's had, and in fairness, like some of the stuff that was going on under his roof like that, this is part that really gets me that I don't, that's sort of like in the same way, he's like, okay, well, like today, he's like, well, I'm here because of you, and it's all your fault. And I misspoke. That's Miss Cobb. That's not Miss Cobb.
Cindy Cobb?
Yes, Judge.
Where are we?
At page 15.
Are we playing it or?
No, I'm reading it. I'm sorry, now you got me. Okay.
What was the time frame? that
I'm
that-
sorry. Let me skip this 15 and a half minutes. 15:29. Or 15 minutes. Miss Cobb says that Miss Lyons says that Chad tells her, well, I'm here because of you and it's all your fault. And she says, and I'm like, bullshit. But how are you going to say it's all, like, I get it, that if everything has been told exactly as it happened, then we'd both be in prison right now. I don't disagree with that. That's totally true. Is that one of the statements that Mrs. Lyons made at the time that would indicate her involvement in this?
Yeah, that's on the recording.
That's not Miss Cobb saying that.
Oh, no,
is it?
that's Erica saying it.
To continue on, but for him to say that, oh, I wouldn't have been there because of you, except it weren't for you. He came up with how to do it. You were asked about a plan. Does that indicate to you some knowledge on her behalf that there's a plan?
Yes,
She doesn't tell us what the plan is, but she says she's acknowledging that there was a plan.
Objection, leading the witness.
Please phrase it as a question, counsel.
Is there anything about that that indicates that she was aware of a plan?
yes, on the recording, there's a comment on there about keeping somebody's skull. Obviously, you have to have a plan in order to keep that skull if you're going to kill somebody.
So when she says he came up with how to do it, he executed almost all of it. The part that he executed went totally awry. I mean, he would talk about, I tried, I couldn't really say it over the phone. I didn't want to make it a problem for him or make him angry for his appeal, but he was so like, he would get this look on his face and be like, quote, yeah, I'm going to, if this goes through,
Where are we right now?
page 16,
Judge,
15 and a half seconds, 15 minutes,
we need to
30
have a
seconds.
sidebar
Okay.
for-
Sidebar.
And to continue on the top of page 16, he would get this look on his face and be like, yeah, I'm going to, if this goes through and I can do this, I'm going to keep her skull as a trophy. I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
All right, and what was that indicating to you as a detective on this case regarding?
I think Attorney Lorenzi, can you also clarify who was talking about whom, since we're just jumping back into
Oh, I'm
this?
sorry. So that was, do you recall that in that tape that was Ms. Lyon speaking, Ms. Stefanko?
About her husband, who wanted to keep the skull? I think it's unclear.
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge. In the context, do you remember the context of this statement?
Yes.
And who was she referring to?
She was saying Chad was going to keep the skull if everything went planned accordingly.
All right. And did that, as a detective, indicate any knowledge to you about, or anything to you about her knowledge of the plan?
I would say that she knew about what was going to happen.
Chad talked to you about conversations under the tree, correct?
Yes.
And in this statement, at about approximately 15 minutes and 50 seconds, Erica actually...
Well, Attorney Lorenzi, I also want to clarify, when you're saying statement, you actually mean the audio recording?
Audio recording, yes.
Okay, just let's keep it clear what we're
Yes.
referencing. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
She references at about
Where is this?
page 16 at 1550.
Okay, and when you say she, could you please use first and last name, just because we have mother-in-law, daughter-in-law? I think it's a little bit confusing for the
I appreciate
jury
that,
of who you're referencing, so let's try to make it as clear as possible.
Mrs. Stefanko says, reference, because I remember the conversation that we had under the tree.
Yes.
In your mind as a detective, you have Mr. Cobb and you have Ms. Stefanko. They're both referencing one same event. Is that significant to you?
That means obviously they're telling us about something that they both know about. They were under a tree talking.
And she doubles down on that, and Ms. Stefanko says, and he's like, under the tree, because we were literally under a tree when we had the conversation.
Objection.
Basis?
He says, and she doubles down on that.
Okay, so that's not part of the record?
No,
I'll withdraw that part of it.
Thank you.
that is commentary on behalf.
Okay, I think he's withdrawn it.
So Ms. Stefanko says, and he's like, quote, under the tree, because we really were literally under a tree when we had the conversation.
True.
Mrs. Stefanko then says, quoting Chad, and he's like, quote, you know, if I do this, there's no turning back.
I'm sorry, where are we?
Yeah, we need to
Page
say.
16 at 16 minutes, 11 seconds. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And as a detective, what does that indicate to you about her knowledge of this plan?
She knew what was going to happen.
At approximately 2 hours and 9 minutes and 22 seconds on page 155, do you recall Ms. Stefanko telling Ms. Cobb that she told Chad, I'm like, quote, this is the only way the situation is going to go away, end quote. Do you recall that?
Yes.
She then goes on and says, Mrs. Stefanko says, and I feel like he really felt, I didn't know that at the time, but he really felt pressured by me to do something about it because I felt like he was the only person that could potentially do something about it. And he didn't tell me, quote, I can't do it. If he had said, I can't do it, then it never would have proceeded.
Yes.
Continue on page 156. If he had said, I can't do this, this is something that I can't do,
unquote, there's no way in hell I would have been like, go forward with it. Those are Mrs. Stefanko's words, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
When we talk about these things like go forward with it or not proceeding, what are we referring to here as a detective?
Basis for the objection. Hold on,
Speculating into an interpretation on the tape.
I'm rebutting confirmation bias.
You can answer what your beliefs were.
Okay, want to repeat that for me?
So when she refers to things like it wouldn't have proceeded or I would have been like, go forward with it. What are we referring to?
With
No,
listening,
ask him what his belief
Oh,
is.
what was your belief that Mrs. Stefanko was referring to?
after listening to the totality of the entire recording, I believe that she had knowledge that they were going to kill Ashley Biggs.
Then she continues on. I foolishly threw the ball in his court, let him make the determinations of whether he was capable to do something that he shouldn't. I should have had the good sense to know you just don't ever try to do.
I'm sorry, but what line, where?
So I'm just continuing on from 156. So that's what I'm like, I will admit to my fault in that. It's like, yeah, I should have at that point said, this is too risky. At that point, whatever percent is too much. Again, as the detective, what was your opinion that she was referring to when she's talking about not going, that is too risky?
We're making a continuing objection on this line of questioning, Judge. for the same
Noted.
reasons previously.
Okay, noted for the record. And what's your basis?
That he's asking for the state of mind of the defendant.
Any response? To put
Yeah,
on the record?
he questioned him about his confirmation bias, and I'm just pointing out things in the record of confirming not his bias, but actual evidence.
Okay, objection noted and overruled. Go ahead.
You repeat it so I can back to it.
So when she talks about, so that's what I'm like, I will admit to my fault in that. It's like, yeah, I should at that point said, quote, this is too risky. At that point, whatever percent is too much. What's too risky? In your opinion, what is she referring to?
From listening to the entire tape, it's too risky to go forward with killing at that point. She should have known better.
On page 157, at approximately 2 hours and 10 minutes and 50 seconds, Mrs. Lyons tells Ms. Cobb, if he had got what was supposed to happen that night, happened, then it was, he had a perfect plan. Those were her words, right?
Yes.
Plan. But it didn't go the way it was supposed to go at all. And why that is, I don't know, because he told it to me 2 different ways. It doesn't matter now. You recall that?
Yes.
She used the word plan, not Miss Cobb, not Mr. Cobb, and not Mary Brinkman, did they?
Correct.
And clearly the plan went awry because he's sitting in prison. Is that fair?
That's fair.
And she's sitting here.
Yes.
I'm going to strike that last statement of her, that she's sitting here.
I apologize,
It's
Judge.
okay, it's
I
not
withdraw.
relevant.
Thank
Please
you.
strike that, Christy. Thank you.
And let's just do one more here. They're going to have this. But at 2:14:29, approximately 2:14, I say 20, page 161, Miss Lyons to Miss Cobb, let's do this, and we'll get back to where we were because we fucked up. I fucked up. I'm not recognizing it when I should have, and not having, because I could have, and it's inaudible, very few times, Mike was like, well, if Chad does that, what he wants to do, I'm like, no, Chad would have listened to me. Chad would have done what I asked him to do, and Chad was doing what I had asked him to do. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
And in your recollection of the conversation as a whole, what was she referring to?
She's talking about it. If she would basically have said, "Don't do this, Chad," he wouldn't have done it.
Detective, was it your confirmation bias or was it Erica Stefanko's words that led you to the grand jury?
The tape recorded conversation with Erica is what brought to the grand jury.
Was there any evidence that you came across during your investigation that would indicate that Mrs. Stefanko did not make those statements voluntarily or willingly?
No,
And I say statements, the audio recording to Cindy Cobb.
correct.
Detective, in your years in patrol, in your personal life, have you dealt with individuals that might have been intoxicated?
Yes,
And were you trained in how to do OVI testing for slurred speech and things of that nature?
yes,
Have you been around people in your personal life that have been intoxicated?
yes.
When you listen to this tape, in your assessment of that tape, did Mrs. Stefanko sound, well, strike that, before I ask that question. You've talked to Mrs. Stefanko, you've heard her talk, rather, on jail calls, probably hours worth. Is that fair?
Oh, yes,
When you listen to the audio recording that she made with Mrs. Cobb,
Well,
was there-
clarify that, please. Mrs. Cobb made the recording, not her.
well, she was part of it.
She had no part in making it, for the record. Go ahead.
I guess it's terminology, Judge, but fair. So the recording that has Erica Stefanko's voices on it talking to Cindy Cobb, based on your knowledge of her conversations on the jail calls, was there anything to indicate to you whether she was intoxicated at the time or not?
I would have to limit that to the speech I heard, and she sounded like she normally did. I mean, it didn't sound like somebody slurring her words or being drunk and talking.
No, I had no further.
I just, two quick things before you go up. I did want to give a curative instruction that when Attorney LaPrenzi said that's the reason she's here today, the defendant is here and there's a presumption of innocence, so please disregard that, and it's going to be stricken from the record. Go ahead, Attorney Laybourne. How long do you expect to go?
Just a couple minutes.
Okay.
Detective, what was Erica's blood alcohol content while that tape was being recorded by Cindy Cobb?
I don't know.
And that's how you would determine if someone's drunk or not, correct?
That or do field sobriety test if you're out there with somebody on the road, but yeah.
Some people can be hammered and look and sound okay.
To a point.
Let's get into it. So in your OVI detection, if somebody was a chronic alcoholic, they could operate at a higher blood alcohol content than somebody that never drank.
Possibility.
Okay. So the way to tell if someone is intoxicated is through blood alcohol content tests.
The breath test or blood test.
As it relates to the tape, detective, what we're hearing on it, because we're not there and we can't see it, and there are parts that are inaudible, we have to do an interpretation, correct?
Correct.
And you've made clear what your interpretation of those cherry-picked snippets are, correct?
I listened to the entire recording several times.
Okay. But when answering questions for Mr. LaPrenzi, you gave your opinion, interpretation of what certain people meant when they said certain things, correct?
Yes.
But because we're not there and we're not them, we don't know exactly what they're talking about. Fair?
For the most part, it's
Okay.
on the recording.
She talks about, Mr. LaPrenzi played, we'd both be in prison. And you said that that means that she's involved in the plan to kill Ashley Biggs, correct?
I believe she said that if everything would be told the way it was, that she would be in prison as well, is what she said.
She'd be in prison as well. We'd both be in prison, I think, right?
If the whole truth came out.
Could she have been referring to her and Cindy Cobb?
Anything's possible.
Are actions that Chad Cobb took after he killed Ashley Biggs could they subject a person to going to prison?
Say that again.
Fair enough, that was wordy. So if someone helps someone after a murder, tampering with evidence, abuse of a corpse, things like that,
Yes.
move things certain way, those are felony offenses, correct?
That's correct.
And those offenses could send somebody to prison, correct?
Potentially, yes.
So if somebody says, I could go to prison, it doesn't necessarily mean I could go to prison for aggravated murder, correct?
Correct.
Now, Mr. LaPrinzi mentioned that I was Monday morning quarterbacking here, correct?
I believe that was his words.
Okay. And that's what we're doing here in a trial, right?
Kinda.
We're looking at and dissecting and analyzing in great detail things that happened previously, right?
True.
And I am not disparaging you, I'll just tell you, for things that happened in the moment, but I've got to ask questions about it because I have a job to do, correct?
You do?
And you've got a difficult, dangerous job, and this case was a lot. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Is it also fair to say that if I point out what I think are mistakes to help my client, that that's fair, right?
I'm not going to take it personal.
You can handle it, right?
It's just part of life.
Okay. Mr. LaPrinzi indicates that all of the questions that I was asking you or mistakes that I think you made were helpful to my client, right?
I guess.
That's my job, correct?
Yeah.
I have a client that I'm supposed to help, correct?
Yes.
What's your job?
To bring enough evidence to the grand jury to get an indictment.
You're not supposed to have any bias towards the state or the defense. Is that correct?
I don't.
Okay. But I am, right?
That's your job.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you, Detective.
You're welcome.
Okay,
I'm nothing good.
okay. Does the state have any more witnesses?
Uh,
Detective Hitchens, you may go back to the table. Thank you.
Judge, based on the state of the evidence at this time, subject to the admission of our exhibits, I believe the state will be resting.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, we would have a motion to make outside the presence of the jury.
Okay, that's what I wanted to see if
But, yeah,
everyone.
we're all set.
So we'll talk to the jurors first. Believe it or not, you're actually going to be free to go today. So again, we have a few, we have a whole weekend. And as we've talked about every day, first of all, we appreciate your service so much and you're doing a phenomenal job. But most importantly, you are absolutely, as we talked about, you took your oath and promised me and promised everyone here that you won't do any outside research, you won't watch any media, you won't read any social media, you won't talk to any family, any friends, or to each other about the case. So just a reminder that you made us that promise, and I know you'll keep it. We are going to start Monday morning at 9 a.m. And then, hold on one sec. So the jury will be free to go. Instead of taking a full hour lunch, we're going to take a 30-minute and come back. So we'll start back up at 1 p.m.
Oh, for us?
For
Yeah,
us,
okay,
just for
perfect.
us,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
So, but the jury, have a wonderful weekend and thank you. Oh, and
rise.
we will, we'll have breakfast snacks on Monday for you, but lunch will be on you on Monday, okay? Thank you, everyone. Have a nice. Do we want to go through the exhibits now?
Sure.
Don't you have to do it after?
After the exhibits are admitted? Yes, correct.
Did you have, you want me to go through each one? Do you have an objection? I have two.
And are you doing them in the order that you presented them in trial, or are you doing just in numerical order?
Numerical order.
That's okay. It might take a minute to follow, but that's fine.
Great.
Wrong answer, but okay. Go ahead.
Okay, one,
Do you have your mic on?
nope. And before, off the record, Your Honor, I'm not gonna go through the name of each picture. I'm just gonna. Defendant has objection.
Is that okay?
That's
Okay.
fine. Yep.
Court's
It's
fine with
quicker.
that.
Okay. All right, Your Honor. One is the jury view, virtual jury view on a flash drive.
Weren't those stipulated to?
No, yep, we stipulated to that and further have no objection to it.
Okay, so that's admitted.
2 and 3 are photos.
No objection.
Admitted.
4 is the recorded, a thumb drive of the recorded conversation.
Other than previously filed motions in limine or discussions that we've had prior to trial starting related to the recording, we do not have an objection to that.
Okay, so Exhibit 4 is, and that is the recording is admitted.
Your Honor, the state had previously marked State's Exhibit 5. It is the transcript that we were referring to, the defense at one point, the state at one point. We would like that to go back to the jury.
We object to that, Judge. The best evidence is the tape. The transcript is an interpretation of what's on the tape. We believe that the jurors are more than capable of getting what they need from the tape itself.
Hear from the state.
Judge, we'll withdraw that. We just wanted to be part of the record since we're referring to page numbers and things like that. But I think Jeff's right. They've got the tape, and we'll just submit it as a court's exhibit for purposes of the record if there should be an appeal.
If there should what?
Should be an appeal. If
Okay, and Chrissy, I just want to make sure we have the correct number. Would that be Court Exhibit 7?
No, I'm
4.
sorry. We've already marked it as State's 5.
Okay, State's 5, but you want to admit it as a court's exhibit
Well, part of the record.
as part of the record.
Right,
Okay,
it's admitted for purposes of the record, but not for purposes of the jury's deliberation.
correct.
Yes.
That's fair, Judge.
Okay.
We've been using it to help us through, but we object to it going back with the jury.
And the reason we've got the number of that, because that's consistent with the number from the prior
Okay,
trial.
that's fine. So it's just going to be admitted for the court record, will not go to the jury,
Yes, thank you.
of course.
Exhibit 6, 7A, and 7B.
No objection.
Hold on, I need to catch up. I have 10 pages of exhibits. Plaintiff's exhibit, what was it, 6, 7?
A and 7B.
There it is. Okay, and no objection to those. Those
objection.
are admitted.
Exhibit 8.
No objection.
Okay, no objection. That will be admitted.
Exhibits 9 through 12 are photos.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, those will all be admitted.
Through 22 are photos.
So you,
No objection, Judge.
16. Okay, no objection. 16 through 22 will be admitted.
Exhibits 26 through, 26 through 63 are photos, and defense is going to look through them now.
You did all these with the Wayne County guy, right?
No, some of them.
It feels like a month ago. No objection, Judge.
Okay, so exhibits 26 through 63 will be admitted with no objections.
Exhibits 65 through 68 are photos.
No objection.
Okay, hold on. 65 to 68 admitted.
70 and 71 are photos.
No objection.
Okay, admitted.
Ninety-nine, 75. Exhibits 75 through 99 are photos, and the defense is looking through them now.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, exhibit 75 through 79, plaintiffs exhibit 75 through 79 will be admitted.
75 through 99.
Oh, 75 through 99, okay.
Exhibit 101.
No objection.
Exhibit 101 for the state will be admitted.
Exhibit 102 is a flash drive containing Verizon phone records, I believe we stipulated to.
No objection.
102,
So 101 and 102 are both admitted.
yeah. Exhibit 103A is the autopsy protocol.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, exhibit 103A is admitted.
Exhibit 103B is the flash drive of the autopsy, the slide presentation, the aid in helping the testimony.
Normally I object to that, but in this case, we have no objection to that.
Okay, exhibit 103B, which is a zip drive, is admitted.
Okay.
You're looking through that, Tristan, we will just have to make sure the jury's able to play the recording when they go back. Okay, just note for future.
104 through 108 are photos.
I need that box.
Judge.
Exhibits 104 through 108 are admitted.
109 containing a piece of duct tape.
No objection.
This is Martin Lewis.
Exhibit
110 is the roll of duct. The number is on the inside. 110 is the roll of duct tape.
No objection.
Okay, both of those will be admitted.
We're gonna pass it around because it's gonna get. 111 are the zip ties.
No objection.
Okay, the zip ties will be admitted.
112, it's on the bag as the camel pants.
No objection.
Camo pants are admitted.
Then there's a big box on the top. That is the backpack and its contents, number 113.
No objection.
Okay, exhibit 113, the backpack and contents is admitted.
Number 114, the stickers here.
No objection.
What was, I didn't hear what it was.
Scuba knife and taser with cartridge.
Okay, exhibit 114 is admitted.
Okay. And number 115, Your Honor, is a camel jacket.
No objection.
Okay, exhibit 115 is admitted.
I haven't got it.
We gotta bring it over here.
116 to 120 are photos.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, exhibits 116 and 120 are admitted.
Exhibit 121 is the BCI report of forensic scientist Martin Lewis.
No objection.
Exhibit 121 is admitted.
Exhibit 123 is the milk crate with the contents.
No objection.
Exhibit 123 is admitted.
Exhibit 125, 6. Exhibit 125, 6, and 7 are photos.
No objection.
Exhibits 125 through 127 are admitted.
And those are all the state's exhibits, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm gonna put.
And does the state rest and submit your case in chief?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Do we want to do any more BCI?
Oh, that's right.
It's up to you. We can stipulate to those so we can.
We can.
We'll get that together this weekend.
Okay.
They can be, we'll do it at the close of the defense case, as Prosecutor Easter suggested. There'll be joint exhibits. Please remind me of that, Angie. Ready, Judge?
go ahead.
Judge, we are making a Rule 29 motion for acquittal based upon insufficiency of evidence. The court has listened and heard a lot of testimony about Chad Cobb, not a tremendous amount about Erica Stefanko. So for purposes of the record, we would make a motion for acquittal under Rule 29.
Okay, I'll hear from the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, in viewing the evidence in light most favorable to the state, we have put forth sufficient evidence to sustain a verdict of this jury and on aggravated murder and murder that is based on, excuse me, the multiple individuals who testified, including Grace Cobb, Cindy Cobb, Chad Cobb, Mary Brinkman, Detective Hitchings, in addition to the evidence that the state has put forth, including but not limited to the recorded conversation between Erica Stefanko and Cindy Cobb.
Anything else from the defense before I rule?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So a court shall not order an entry of judgment of acquittal if evidence is such that reasonable minds can reach different conclusions as to whether each material element of a crime has been proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Here, when the evidence is viewed in a light most favorable to the state, the court finds that reasonable minds could reach different conclusions as to whether each material element of a crime has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The motion for acquittal is denied. It's my understanding everyone will be, I believe the defense will begin their case Monday morning. We're going to start at 9 a.m.
Okay. Yep.
Anything else from either side for the record?
No, Your Honor, we'll be
No, Your
ready to
Honor.
go Monday morning.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Judge.
Thanks,
You too.